Okay, hello everyone. I'm Larry Walker, and this is my wife Carol. And today we are going to be presenting a couple of modules to you. The first one is this one, dealing with depression. Your role in that, and it's going to be heavily depending upon the readings in your manual there. So I know that looking at this group, you all did those readings, and it's going to go real smooth. So, why do we, let's give you a little bit of background on who we are and why we do this, okay? We lost our son, Christopher, there he is, 7 years ago now, in January of 2010. And we started going to a...
To suicide. We lost our son to suicide.
Yeah, to suicide. Sorry. He was 38 years old and 2 years away from, actually 2 days away from being 38 years old. He's a twin, and he also has an older brother. And we started we got involved with this Touched by Suicide North Texas group about 2 years after his suicide. And we started, we started going to them about 2 weeks after his suicide. And about 2 years later, we started our own group, which meets right here in this building once a month, where we help other people who have lost someone to suicide. We call ourselves suicide survivors, and I'll make that distinction a little bit later on. So we started doing that, and we've been doing that for about 5 years. We also are part of the Denton County MHMR LOSS team. LOSS is a local outreach to suicide survivors. Whenever there's a suicide in Denton County, we go on scene with the medical examiner and a mental health professional from MHMR. We also do delayed visits after the fact. And so, why do we do that? Because, it's not because we like it. We actually dread it. Every month when our group meets, there's a dread that comes over us because we know what we're about to experience. And when we leave after the session, we say we sure are glad that we were able to do that. So why do we do it? We do it because we can do it. We have the so-called experience of being able to do that. And we feel obligated to do it because we can, not because we enjoy it. So, also, when we do these Stephen Ministry things and other things that we do in the community related to depression and suicide, we're kind of selfish about it because we, I thought it was just me. We kind of hijack these things a little bit. Now, we're definitely going to go through, I forgot to mention, another reason we do this is so that, we can do for you what you need to do so that you can minister to your care receivers. But forgot where I was there for a moment. But why do we do it? Because we can, all right? And we like to help to spread the word because there is a terrible stigma that's attached to depression and suicide. And the more that we can get people to understand a little bit more about that, the better we are, and hopefully the end game is less suicides. I'm kind of a goal-oriented guy. I'm 32 years in the Air Force, so everything I do has got to have a goal and an objective. And it just so happens they've written some down for us in your manual. Today, you will be able to hopefully, in the group and after the group, care for mildly to moderately depressed individuals. important distinction between mildly and moderately depressed and severely depressed. And we'll talk more about that later. And then also you hopefully will be able to recommend severely depressed people that need it to professional care. The objectives: be able to understand the differences between those three, know what can cause depression, know how to care for a mildly to moderately depressed person, that's up there in the goal, and also when to recommend a depressed person for professional care. And then we're going to do some practice exercises where we actually try to figure out what level they're at and then care for them. And then, once again, the biggies to take away from this: understand the differences, know what can cause, how to care for, and when to recommend a depressed person for professional care. A little overview of all the modules or all the sections that we're going to cover today. The skill practice that we all know and love. And we have some handouts at the end as well. And once again, the takeaways: caring for mildly to moderately depressed persons and know when to refer those who are more severely depressed. Now Carol's going to take the next section.
I'm Carol Walker, and the certainty of loss and the promise of joy. How do you think Moses felt when he stood on the mountain and looked at the promised land, knowing he would never be allowed to enter it? Have you ever wondered how Peter felt when he heard the rooster crow and realized that he had denied Jesus as predicted? What went through Mary's mind when she heard Simeon prophesy that a sword of sorrow would pierce her soul because of her son Jesus? What about the women who watched from a distance as Jesus was crucified and died? Can you imagine the loss they must have felt and the depression that must have resulted? You have already learned that depression is often the result of loss, but not always. And I believe that is where you will learn the distinction of a mildly depressed person, a moderately depressed person, and a severely depressed person. And we'll get into more detail with that in the lesson. It seems that God's people are destined for loss and sadness at one time or another. Like Moses, some may dedicate their lives to leading others at work or in the family. But the time will always come when our followers leave us behind and take their next steps without us. We may know with Peter the sorrow of promising that we will follow Jesus no matter what, and then hearing "and I told you so," that wakes us up and shows us our failure. Many of us will know the deep sadness of seeing a loved one die and struggling to make sense of the new life we have been handed. Some of us may see our dreams die and have to come to terms with dashed hopes. Paul had a faith-filled perspective on loss. Listen to what he wrote to the Philippians. What is more, I consider everything a loss compared to the surpassing greatness of knowing Christ Jesus my Lord, for whose sake I have lost all things. Paul knew that God loves his children so much that he does away with the old sinful person that each of us has been and creates the new person in Jesus' image that each of us is becoming. Paul knew that this means loss. It means eventually losing everything that is not from Jesus, so that all that is left is the surpassing greatness of knowing Christ Jesus our Lord. And that is, I can tell you, from losing our son Chris, that has given us such great peace, knowing that he is with our Lord. And we truly believe that. And we'll get into that more also about our church beliefs. Moses, Peter, and Mary, and the women all suffered painful loss and probably felt depressed about it. However, they also experienced the surpassing greatness of knowing Christ Jesus their Lord. The pain of their loss did not last forever. That is the hope that you can bring to your care receivers when they suffer depression, and to yourselves when you do. Loss is inevitable. Everyone will suffer it in one way or another, and everyone will feel the pain of depression. But that is never the end of the story. Jesus is our Lord and has promised an eternity of surpassing greatness. Larry had a dream, and he and Chris were walking in a garden, and they both knew that Chris had died. And they sat on a bench. And Chris put his head on Larry's shoulder. And he said, "Are we alone?" And Larry said he looked around and he said, "Yeah, I think so." And Chris said, "They have me doing really neat things here." So I get goosebumps. So believe what you want. But his life is eternal now. There was a time when Peter said to Jesus, "We have left everything to follow you." "I tell you the truth," Jesus replied. "No one who has left home or brothers or sisters or mother or father or children or fields for me and the gospel will fail to receive 100 times as much in this present age. Homes, brothers, sisters, mothers, children, and fields, and with them persecutions, and in the age to come, eternal life. Everyone will continue to suffer loss, not only your care receivers, but also ourselves. These losses will continue to be painful. We would never try to dismiss that pain and sadness by insisting that people look beyond their loss to the joy that we have been promised. That would not be a caring way to relate. But when you are in a dark place, it helps to have a flashlight. When you are in a dark place, it helps to have a flashlight. You are the flashlights. When your care receivers or you are depressed, it helps to carry the light of hope with you and to remember the words of the psalm. Weeping may linger for the night, but joy comes with the morning. Weeping may linger for the night, but joy comes in the morning. Please join us in prayer.
Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Lord God, when we suffer the inevitable losses of life, be with us. Comfort us. Help us know we are not alone. When the days stretch out in barren deserts of sadness, when all we can see is the dry wasteland of meaninglessness, walk by our side, whispering words of encouragement, of hope and encouragement. When the world turns dark and we cannot even see where to put our foot for the next step of our painful journey, be the light of our world, showing us the path toward healing that you have laid out for us. When our care receiver seems stuck on a never-ending treadmill of melancholy despair, use us to care for them and to show them the way to renewed hope and joy. We pray in Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Father, Son, and Holy Spirit.
Okay, this next section is called Visualizing Depression. So I'm going to ask each of you to get as comfortable as you can in your chair. We're going to dim the lights. I'm going to escort, go ahead, you can turn them all out. I'm going to escort you on a journey in your mind to discover some feelings and perhaps to gain some insights. Close your eyes. Relax your legs. Relax your arms. Relax your neck and face muscles. Relax your whole body. Direct all your attention inward. Concentrate on any muscles in your body that are tense and relax them. Now listen to my voice. Let your imagination go. Let me direct it. Envision in your mind a barren room. It is a very small room. The walls are very plain and they are blank. There is nothing hanging on the walls. The paint is dirty white in color, and large chunks of it are peeling off. In the room, you see a sink underneath a cloudy mirror. Next to the sink is an old metal table with a hot plate on top of it, and some dirty saucepans next to the hot plate. There is one chair beside the table, an old metal kitchen chair. The plastic on the back and on the seat of the chair is torn so that you can see dirty cotton stuffing forcing its way out. In the wall to the left of the chair is one smudged window. There are no curtains or blinds. Out the window, you can see the bricks of another building, just like the one you are in. The other building is lit at regular intervals by the flashing red light of a neon sign, which you cannot see. In front of the next wall is an old dresser with all four of its drawers half open. You can see unfolded and soiled clothing half hanging out of the drawers. There is an old black telephone on top of the dresser, along with a confusion of paper, a cheap watch, and a half-eaten candy bar. Next to the dresser is a small bed. It has a simple metal frame, and the single sheet is untucked and dangling to the floor. The whole room is lit by a naked light bulb hanging by a wire from the ceiling. Lying on the bed is a solitary person, just lying there, looking at the paint peeling off the ceiling. That person is you. You are lying there motionless. You do not have the energy to get up, but you are not relaxed either. Your arms and legs are tense and almost cramped from long disuse. You are lying on the bed trying not to think about anything. You have no friends you can call, nowhere to go. You have no money to do anything, even if you could think of something to do. You have no television, no radio, no books, no newspapers. There you are with the chair and the sink and the bed and the peeling paint. The phone rings. You jump because you are startled. You reach for the receiver quickly, hoping. When you pick it up and say hello, there is a click and the line goes dead. You put the phone back and go back to staring at the ceiling, lying motionless on the lumpy mattress. part of you wants to do something. Most of you is too tired, and what's the use anyway? You lie there, trying not to think, trying not to feel, trying not to remember, trying not to exist, and not succeeding at any of these. Okay, think about how you feel now. Open your eyes. Larry, would you turn the light on? Experience all the emotions that are happening in your heart, in your insides, in your mind. Think about them and remember them. Slowly get up and stretch your arms and your legs and get your circulation going again. Okay. What words would you use to describe the emotions that you were experiencing?
Depressed. Depressing. Lonely.
What, Julie?
Depressing and lonely.
Yeah. Anybody else?
Hopeless.
Was this person mildly, moderately, or severely depressed? Severe? Why do you think severely?
Because when the phone rang, no one was there. No one was there for that person.
I think also that person could not do anything. It was kind of frozen.
Seemed to be had given up.
And the thing about it is that if that person is severely depressed through our experience, and we want to stress to you over and over, we're not professionals. We're not trained to be anybody's counselor. But since we lost our son to depression and suicide, we have read a lot, we have talked with a lot of people, we've had a lot of people come to our group.
Can they sit down?
Huh?
Can they sit down?
Oh, yes, you can sit down.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Say Simon Says.
And a severely depressed person doesn't always know why they are depressed. And we'll talk about that more. And I will turn this over to Larry.
Do they know they're depressed?
I'm sorry?
Do they know that they're depressed?
Yes, they do. They do. We had a lady that came to our group, and I'll just tell this quick, and this is part of why we sometimes go over. We had a woman that came to our group. Her psychologist recommended that she come to a suicide survivor support group because she had tried suicide and thought about suicide a lot. But she described her week to us, and they know something is wrong. I don't know if in their mind they call it depression. They probably do. But they know that they cannot get out of bed. Monday is great. Tuesday, they wake up and they don't know what happened from Monday to Tuesday. They just can't get out of bed. So I think this is where we'll get into the mild, moderate, and severely depressed.
One quick question on that. The severe depression for all stages, do they come and go?
I think they do come and go, because this woman would be all right on Monday, but then Tuesday she couldn't get up. But then eventually it would get better. But with our son, they liken it to a glass of water for all of us. And we have a healthy mind. And we have a disappointment in life, and a drop of water goes in this cup. But we have a good filtration system when you have a healthy mind. So that cup never overflows. When you suffer from mental illness, which is what depression is, that filter is clogged, and it does not allow all all those disappointments in your life or setbacks that most people can handle until the last drop is the one that makes it run over, and that's when they will take their life. So through the course of their life, yes, they're dealing with all of these things.
Okay, notice I circled hopelessness here. I just want you to pay attention to how many times that comes up in this lesson as well as the next lesson. Hope, getting hope, not having hope. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. I have some ideas about that. The next one is how to care for mildly to moderately depressed persons. Okay, in your reading, you learned about the signs and the causes of depression. I'm going to share now some information on how to care for mildly to moderately depressed individuals. Before I do that, though, Carol and I are going to go back and forth on these ideas. Re-emphasize one more time that we're not here to learn how to, the only reason we're here is to learn how to care for mildly depressed or moderately depressed individuals. And in no way are we qualified, any of us, to help someone that is severely depressed. So always remember that in your role as a caregiver. Okay, be patient. Caring for depressed people can require a lot of patience. Depressed care receivers may respond slowly and repeat themselves a lot. In our group, our routine in the group is for everybody in the group to go around in our little circle and we tell our stories again. And in telling our stories over and over again, and we can relate most of the people in our group, we can tell their stories for them. We've heard them so many times. But telling the story over and over again helps. So if somebody wants to do that with you, just be patient with them and let them talk. By allowing the conversation to go at your care receiver's speed and responding attentively to thoughts you have heard expressed many times before, you will provide just the care your care receiver needs. You may be tempted to try to solve your care receiver's depression by pointing out ways that he or she could change. That's probably not a good idea, and it's unlikely to help. Instead, remain patiently process-oriented and allow God and the care receiver to solve the problems in their own way.
Be accepting. Your care receiver may experience rejection from others who find him or her too difficult to be around. And as Larry said, in our group, we hear that a lot when people are telling their stories for their loved one that took their life. You get so frustrated, and this is what happened to this woman as well. On the days she would wake up, she couldn't get out of bed. Here would come her husband and twin daughters. They were her cheerleaders. I was Chris's cheerleader, and he wanted to do what I was encouraging him to do, but he couldn't do it. And again, we're talking severely depressed. People may avoid talking with your care receiver because they feel so frustrated and bored with the conversation. Because everything you recommend, and even for a mildly depressed person, maybe it's the beginning of what, if they can identify that law, what is causing them to be depressed, more than likely that's going to be a moderate or light depression. But if they cannot identify what their depression is, it could very well be a severe depression because they don't know. Depressed people may notice such rejection, and it may push them deeper into their depression. It also pushes them deeper in their depression when you're the cheerleader and they want to do what you're asking them to do. So be sensitive to these people and just tread lightly with them. You can bring light into a dark place by accepting your care receiver, letting him or her know that you understand his or her pain and will not reject him or her. Okay, I got permission from Dave when we taught this, when we presented these modules last. I highly encourage you not to tell them that you know how they feel. You don't know how they feel. And that it's the same for us having lost a child to suicide. If somebody comes up to us and tells us that they know how we feel, and we know they haven't lost anyone to suicide, it's not true. They don't know. Until you've walked in their shoes, you don't know. So I highly, highly discourage telling them you know how they feel. Unless you've had a serious bout with depression, then you can relate that with them. Focus note 1 on page 293 gives an example of what you might say. Would someone please read focus note 1?
I know you have been struggling with feeling down most of the time. I just want to say that it's all right to be sad sometimes. When people go through what you have gone through, feeling down is the most normal thing in the world. I'll stick with you while you work through this.
Another way in which you can relate to and show acceptance of the care receiver is through simple, caring statements, as you see in focus note 2. Would someone read that, please?
Accepting statements. Life is sometimes very difficult. I'm with you. It's okay to feel depressed at times.
By expressing such thoughts, you let care receivers know that you are with them and accept them even when they are depressed. A book that I recommend is called Struck by Living. It's on Amazon. It's inexpensive. This lady talks about her struggle with depression her whole life. And it might help you to understand what a depressed person goes through. Now, of course, she had severe depression. It's by Julie Hirsch, Hersch.
I think so.
Yeah, Julie Hirsch. I couldn't put it down. It helped me to understand what my son went through every day of his life and the frustration that he felt.
Okay, next one is encourage, initiate conversation. Initiate conversation. And please forgive us for reading this, because if we don't, you're going to miss some stuff because we'll leave out some good stuff, but we'll be here forever because we launch out on the things on our own if we're not focused on this. With depressed care receivers, you will need to initiate conversations more often than with people who aren't depressed. You know how sometimes when you're talking to somebody and you don't want to fill every void, but sometimes you let you just let the silence lay there for a minute. You know, not trying to, so you let them come in. But with depressed people, you may have to jump in a little bit sooner than normal. They are much less likely to initiate conversations than many other care receivers. You may have to be the one to initiate most or even all of the conversations at first. Prolonged silences can be very uncomfortable for depressed persons. They may blame themselves for the silence or be thinking all kinds of negative thoughts that will only add to the depression. That's why it's better to keep silences shorter and initiate more of the conversation yourself. Okay, focus note 3. Somebody please read that for us.
Interrupting silences. We've been quiet for a while, and I'm wondering what you're thinking. You seem to be having a difficult time talking, but inside I would imagine you have a number of thoughts and feelings going on.
Anybody think of any other way to draw them out? It's tough sometimes to do that.
Could you say possibly to restate that things are confident, not confident, but, say, hey, just let you know that what we can talk about here is, I know it's intimate and it's private, but it's between us, and it's not.
Yeah, give them assurance that
Right.
whatever they say is not going to go anywhere, of course, yeah, obviously. And, maybe, like you said, restate something that's already been laid on the table, just to get them thinking.
I think it's very important in this sense. We've been quiet for a while, not you've been,
Yeah,
but we have been.
yeah,
Not laying the blame on them.
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, I think
Right.
that's important.
it is,
Yeah,
very important.
that is, that's good pointing that out, Ed.
David had something.
Letting them know that they're important, so if they have anything to say, no matter how little, small, or how big
Yeah.
they may, of the topic they may think it is, let them know that because they're important, what they have boiling up inside them
Yeah, don't
is
keep it
important.
in. Anything you've got, let's talk about it. All right.
And I think it's a good idea, especially to reinforce to them that what they say to you is confidential, because I know that is very much talked about in the Stephen ministry, that it is very confidential. Because I think, at least I know with our son and with other people that have come into our group, they're embarrassed. There is such a stigma with depression and suicide. They're embarrassed. And so being able to draw it out and talk to them in confidence gives them a good feeling. Encourage expression of feelings. While exploring feelings is important with any care receiver, it is particularly so with depressed persons. They have an especially difficult time expressing their feelings. Care for them by giving them every opportunity to talk about what they are feeling. And if they can't, that's okay too. One way you can coax further expression of feelings is by giving positive encouragement when the depressed person makes any kind of feeling statement. For instance, if the care receiver has finally managed to put something into feeling, Focus Note 4 on page 294 shows one way to respond. Would someone read that, please?
I've been wondering what you were feeling about that. Thank you for sharing your feelings with me. It seems to be a little easier for you to talk about your feelings now.
What do you guys think about that? Reassuring, I think. Depressed persons frequently express feelings by crying. Even if they don't cry, they often have the urge to do so. Be sensitive to indications that the person has the need to cry and encourage it. As you see in Focus Note 5, read that to yourselves, please. And you might cry with them. In our group, we cry. And when we have new people that come in and they tell their story, and we have Kleenexes that make the rounds, they say that it makes them feel like we really care. So if you find yourself wanting to cry with them, that's okay, because then they know that you are really feeling their sorrow at that moment. Depressed people are often angry, which can be a difficult feeling for some to express. They're angry because they don't understand it themselves. If you sense that your care receiver is holding in feelings of anger, encourage them to talk about those feelings. Focus Note 6 shows a couple of ways you might do so. Take a moment and read Focus Note 6 to yourself. The one thing to just ask you to be sensitive. Our son told me that he thought God had abandoned him. So while we definitely want you to encourage them to lean on their faith, sometimes because they're angry and they feel abandoned, just tread lightly with that until you get a feel for how their perspective on their faith and how it works into how they're feeling. I mean, it's important, and I'm not telling you not to talk about it, but just be careful what you say until you fully understand where they are. Because our son, he told me, he said, Mom, because I would say to him, Chris, pray. And he said, Mom, I feel that God has abandoned me.
He said, I tried that.
Huh?
He said, I tried that, it didn't work.
Yeah. When your care receiver expresses feelings, ask follow-up questions to encourage them to continue talking about feelings. For example, after a care receiver has cried, you might want to delve further into whatever feelings prompted the tears. Focus Note 7 on page 295 shows a statement that might be helpful in such a situation. Would someone read that, please?
You must have felt quite strongly about whatever it was that made you cry. Could you tell me more about it? So try to draw.
You think that's good? And they might be able to, but then again, at that particular time, they might not be able to talk about that.
How about that feeling of abandonment?
Yes.
Would it be all right to point out that Jesus said, my God, why have you abandoned me?
Yes.
He was feeling the same thing.
In the main worship space at the top, the stained glass of Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane, we bought that glass for our son because we felt that's probably how Chris felt, because that's when he said he felt so, he said that on the cross, but also in the Garden of Gethsemane, he felt abandoned by his Father. Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Take your care receiver seriously. When you are dealing with a depressed person, take his or her pain seriously. Oftentimes they'll have pain and there won't be a physical reason for it, but it'll be a physical pain, but there won't be a physical reason for it. Resist any temptation to try to cheer up your care receiver or to use humor to help him or her snap out of the depression. You don't snap out of depression. It won't work, and it will not show empathy with your care receiver's feelings.
Discourage self-defeating behavior. A depressed person may want to abruptly quit their job or school or end an important relationship. They may later deeply regret such impulsive, self-defeating choices. One thing that we tell the people in our group is don't decide today that this is how you're going to feel for the rest of your life. Don't decide today that this is how you're going to feel for the rest of your life. Do what you can to discourage such potentially harmful decisions while emphasizing your care, concern, and presence. You may offer an opinion, make a suggestion, or even contract with the care receiver to delay temporarily a potentially self-defeating major decision. Focus Note 8 on page 295 shows how you might conduct part of that conversation. Would two volunteers read it, please?
I'll do the care receiver. I've decided to quit my job.
That's a pretty important decision. What would happen if you put that decision until you are feeling a little better?
I really can't do that. I've already made up my mind, and whatever you say won't change my mind.
Does it really make a big difference whether you quit your job today or next week? You can always quit your job, but if you quit it and then you want to go back to it, you might not be able to.
I suppose it wouldn't hurt to wait a few days.
You agree with that? If the decision comes rather suddenly, and there hasn't been any other signs, such as they've mentioned to you they're giving stuff away. You notice if you're meeting at their home, are you allowed to meet at their homes? Or do you have to meet someplace else? You can go to their homes, sort of? Okay, if you've just noticed any kind of strange behavior from them, like maybe they are thinking about taking their life with their depression, then for them to say, I'm thinking about quitting my job, that could be just an abrupt, I'm angry, I don't like how I'm feeling, I'm mad at the people at work. But if you've noticed other things, then there possibly could be some underlying issues that they're not telling you about.
One thing I noticed that's missing in that discussion is the question, why are you thinking about quitting your job? And that may open up another whole avenue of discussion.
Sometimes you will not be able to convince a person to change their mind, postpone a decision. You have the right and obligation to ask whether a depressed person is contemplating a harmful decision and to suggest alternatives. The depressed individual ultimately has the right to make any decision he or she wants to. However, even when such a decision might do harm. The clear exception to that statement, of course, is in the cases of suicide, homicide, and abuse. As the presentations on confidentiality and suicide make clear, a care receiver's rights do not extend to include suicide, homicide, abuse, or other bodily injury.
And still hope. And here's that word, hope, again. And the first sentence, since hopelessness is a main characteristic of depression, an important part of caring for depressed people is to instill hope. So, throughout our ministry of suicide support group, the word hope comes up an awful lot. And just think about yourselves with a healthy mind of being hopeless. You know, have you ever had a situation where you felt hopeless to do anything about it? And you know, maybe you've worked through that some way, but if you're depressed and you can't handle AIDS really well, think about what it is to be hopeless. Whatever is bothering you, whatever pain that you have, whatever life situation that you have, whatever physical situation you may have, you know, all of the so-called problems, perceived problems that you have, you feel like there's no hope of them ever getting better. And that's when you start to cross over into the severely depressed and in danger of suicide. If you think life is never going to get any better than what it is right now, and right now it's terrible, I perceive it to be terrible, that's a dangerous situation. So instilling hope, finding ways to do that, I think is paramount. And I think it overshadows everything else that we're doing. So one way to help give hope is to help the depressed person identify the problem that caused the depression without going into, too deep. One problem It's going to make you feel bad for a little while, but it's not going to cause you depression. It might cause you to be mildly depressed if you don't have a healthy mind and you're not able to work through it. But I have so many thoughts on this. Depression, I think, is the problem. Depression, because depression is a physical disease. It's a disease that you can die from by suicide. Just like if you had pneumonia and it wasn't treated, you could die from it. If you have heart disease or, cancer, if it's undetected and not treated, you can die from it. And it's the same way with depression. So, I'll just say one thing about the physical disease part of it. There have been studies done of people who were clinically depressed and diagnosed as such. And they've done scans of their brain. They take slice after slice and analyze it, like what they're doing with some of the football players nowadays. Looking at concussions and that kind of thing. There's a physical difference in the, as you call it, frontal lobe of the brain that is different from people who are not depressed. So there is a physical, it's accepted that it's a physical disease. And so that's the problem. The depression is the problem. And the life situations that go along with that is what compounds the problem. Like Carol was talking about the glass, when the drips in the glass. So, let me read a little bit about over here, because I think it's good. Naturally, identifying the causes or causes of depression. Again, that's just my thought that the depression is already there. But it would normally take longer than this little focus thing here that I skipped. So let's look at that right now. Let's read the focus note 9, please. A couple of you do that. Care receiver and caregiver.
Okay, I'll be the receiver again.
Okay, I'll be the giver.
I'm so depressed.
What about,
I don't know.
when did your feeling of depression begin?
Last Thursday,
Gee, what were you doing on Thursday?
I was looking for a job.
What happened?
I had an interview for a job that I really liked, but I'm sure the interviewer had decided he couldn't hire me because I was too old.
Okay, naturally, identifying the cause or causes of depression would normally take longer than this. This is just a slight example. And in some cases, it might not be possible at all to find out what the problem is. However, it gives you an idea of how that might happen. Identifying the causes of depression or identifying the problems that you have that goes along with your depression might bring hope when the care receiver realizes that there is a reason for the way he or she is feeling and that he or she might be able to do something about it. So you might be able to alleviate that drop of water that's about to fall in if you get them talking about it.
All right, quick question. Do they normally say I'm depressed? I mean, do they even know that they're depressed?
Well, I don't, it could go either way. If they've been to a doctor and diagnosed, then they know that they're depressed. And they know when they feel bad. You know when you feel bad. And if they're talking to you, they think it's serious enough to, talk to somebody about it. Maybe I just feel bad, or maybe I don't know. So I'm depressed. I didn't know I was depressed. I thought I just felt bad, So.
It's such a grayish area, seems to me, until it turns into severe depression.
Yeah.
and what people can work through themselves in the slight and
Yeah.
depression, and where it becomes where they can't work. I know my daughter struggles with some sort of depression. We're just starting to identify some things, but I've listened to people talk. My wife and I struggle because talking about it or dealing with it, because for me, it's okay to be sad.
Yeah.
At some, on some sort of level. That's part of life.
Yeah.
But my wife wants my daughter to be happy.
Yeah.
That's her focus, is to do everything that she can to keep my daughter happy.
Yeah.
And for me, I look and say, okay, well, sadness and some struggles, that's what life is about. Or, but then, if my daughter says, I'm sad all the time,
Yeah.
then maybe there's something.
And maybe she can't identify the reason for being sad.
Right. Sure.
Maybe it's just a state of mind.
But isn't that the struggle that we're going to have as caregivers, is to work through what is kind of, doable,
Yeah.
or what we can help out with what.
Yeah, and there's questions you can ask as we go along
Right.
here. It'll become more clear as to when you need to be concerned that maybe this is not something that you should be handling, that somebody else should be handling. Yeah, and then we'll get into that some more.
Larry, excuse me, one more question.
Okay.
You talked about the changes to the brain as a physical part of depression.
Right.
Which comes first, the change to the brain or the depression?
Well, yeah, you don't give me the line to you.
I believe that you're born with it. I believe it is a physical, chemical imbalance in your body that affects your brain. So it's there. And it's like our son Chris. He struggled with depression, and we didn't identify it as depression. But we knew that things bothered Chris more than his twin brother or his older brother. But we didn't know about depression, and I was just telling Larry that this morning. I wish I had this when we were going through the depression with Chris, because it would have opened my eyes to the fact that Chris was sick. He had a physical ailment, and it was there, and it had been there, and we hear that a lot. Most of the people that talk about their loved ones, and again, we're getting into the suicide part of it, but 99.9% of all people that take their lives have depression. They suffer some form of depression, and it's not something that just came on overnight. Chris was 37 years old and had struggled, and not to the point, he was very successful, but not to the point that he wasn't able to do his job or anything, but it affected who Chris was. So I think the chemical imbalance that creates this problem in the front lobe of the brain is there. And it keeps that person from being able, that filter, to filter out the ups and downs of life. Again, we're not doctors, but just from everything we've read and the people we've spoken to, and we have people that have been in the group that have lost children. And this one couple in particular, they went to the Flower Mound group, but their daughter, she was born and always had a problem, and took her life, I think, when she was probably about 10 or 12. So it was there.
There's, in suicide, there's a strong hereditary aspect of suicide as well. In families or groups of people or families who have experienced a suicide are exponentially more likely to have another suicide somewhere along the way.
There was a woman in the group who lost her brother and her husband, another woman that lost her ex-husband and her son. We have, I mean, it's hereditary.
And hereditary, when I hear that, I'm saying, well, it can't be genetic, but it's hereditary through, example, familiarity.
That's not what hereditary means. Hereditary is genetic.
That's just.
You inherit it, it's passed down.
But if you have
I know what you're
this
saying.
chemical, if you have this chemical imbalance, then what's to say you can't? Now, our other two sons are fine. We have no history of suicide in our family or depression. So we can't explain our son.
Okay, we could go on instilling hope here.
Okay.
And, instilling hope kind of it implies something about the future. So any conversation that you can initiate that talks about the future, in other words, and I'll just read the focus note here, when you are feeling better, so on and so forth, that implies something about the future. And when we meet again, that implies something about the future. In other words, that, okay, maybe I'll feel better then, So conversations about the future and what it could be like is another way to instill hope. And what Carol talked about a little bit ago also implies something about the future. Don't decide today how you're going to feel for the rest of your life. And to me, that means, okay, maybe I better just, things could change. So there's still hope. Because you gotta have hope. If you don't have hope, then it's a serious problem. By indicating at appropriate times that there is a future and that the time will come when the care receiver will feel better, you can help instill hope in the depressed person. Be sure not to overuse those phrases because, when you do that, it becomes hollow or insincere. Okay, let's go on.
Give traditional Christian assurances. At the right time, make use of some of the traditional resources of Christianity. The scriptures may contain many passages that might instill hope. Sometime review the resource of biblical stories and promises on pages 64 to 76 of your Stephen Minister Training Manual to find passages that might apply. Focus note 11 on pages 296 and 297 contains some passages that might be especially meaningful for depressed persons. We won't take the time to read those now, but remember where they are, and if you need them, you can use them. Prayer can be a helpful gift for a depressed person. God is present and listening when the care receiver talks to God. Prayer can also be aware to share burdens with God instead of carrying them alone. Jesus said, "Come to me, all you who are weary, and I will give you rest." Prayer is a way of responding to Jesus' invitation and coming to him. If your care receivers are willing to pray, pray aloud with them whenever you meet. Assure them that you will pray for them every day and encourage them to take their concerns to God in prayer. Depressed people often feel guilty about specific actions and also about general expectations they have of themselves. At the right time, and after listening, and allowing care receivers to talk about their guilt feelings, assure them that God forgives and loves them. as I said, our Chris felt that God had abandoned him. And it's normal for a depressed person to feel guilty because they feel that, because sometimes they can't identify it, they feel like they're a burden. And as we talked about earlier, friends get tired. They lose friends because nobody wants this all the time. Because just like for us, we didn't understand depression. Your care receiver might appreciate a cheerful blessing now and then. Use blessings at the end of your caring visit, in a message left on a phone answering machine, or in a greeting card. Such blessings will remind your care receiver that God is looking out for them. The Christian community is another caring resource for depressed people when they are having trouble making connection with others, but really need to interact with people. Worship services and church social activities may be occasions when depressed people can enjoy the fellowship with Christians. Through these various Christians' caring resources, you can help reduce fear and build courage in your care receiver.
Heavy fingers. Help depressed persons to do something. Some depressed people are unable to take that first step that would help them get out of their depression. Encourage care receivers to take intentional small steps to accomplish tasks. Make the first task very easy, one that they can surely succeed in taking. Then subsequent steps will become easier, and care receivers may be on the way to rising above depression. I don't have anything in mind here, but maybe some of you can have an example of a small first easy step or a task for somebody to their finances are in a shambles, and they're coming to talk to you about how they feel about that.
Well,
Something small, something.
maybe I'm a big fan of writing stuff down and kind of putting together start listing your options for solutions. So maybe they could write down what maybe smallest to biggest, or what their major, or their, the major financial concerns are down to the smallest.
Right, write down their concerns about their finances, and then maybe come in and let's prioritize it.
Yes.
Create a budget.
Create a budget. That may be a big step. So, so something really simple, just to get them to have a success that they can build on. Okay. Next.
Promote independence gradually. Some depressed persons become helplessly dependent on others. Generally speaking, as soon as care receivers begin to come out of their depression, begin gradually to encourage independent behavior. Affirm every example you see of care receivers taking responsibility for themselves. When care receivers are depending on you too much, ask what they can do for themselves. Certainly don't cut care receivers off abruptly, but work with them gradually to become more independent. And what comes to mind that you think, if they're still just calling you all the time, but you sense that they're really able to do a little bit more themselves, what would you do?
Like if you tell them to only call you a couple times a week, it'd be like pushing them off.
Yeah.
Can't do that.
Yeah, this is probably a very sensitive part of it right here.
But I think, and I say this all the time when we present these modules, you're going to know that you're going to get to know this person. And so you're going to have a better gut feeling for what you can start to do for them to become a little more independent. encourage them to take care of themselves better. If you notice that they're physical, dirty, not taking a shower because they haven't felt like it, like this poor person that we did, in the beginning, laying on that bed, encourage them. You will feel better about yourself. If you're clean, take a shower. If you notice that things in their house are not very well kept, encourage them to do that for themselves. We always feel better when we have a clean house and we've had a fresh shower,
Be careful telling me to take a shower. Okay. Express support physically. Physical expressions of support can be extremely helpful in your caring relationship. This might consist of a hug or a handshake, a pat on the back, or putting an arm around the care receiver, or even placing a hand on the person's shoulder or the forearm. Just reach out, touch, physical connection. Sometimes these nonverbal expressions of support and presence mean more than any words you can say, and we know that from experience. But what's the problem there with physical contact?
You're touching somebody and
You
maybe
gotta be careful. Nowadays, you gotta be careful, Be very judicious in when you do it.
Well, there's one good thing. I had someone the other day in a business office, but it was about her job.
Yeah.
She said, "I'm a hugger."
Yeah.
And she just walked up and hugged me.
Yeah.
And I guess you could get away with that. She could with me.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah. You,
a lot of people are huggers, and if you
depends on the situation. I consider myself a hugger too, but I'm not going to walk up and hug you ladies. Just
could get
out of appropriate, inappropriately, or just out of the blue.
Have you all had safe environment training yet? You all have had safe environment?
not here, but in another church.
And because in that training, they show you the correct way to hug a person.
Yeah.
To keep you, not full front hug, but,
You know who you can hug and who you can't.
Well, and with little kids, you have to be really, really careful. But
Yeah.
sometimes they just come right up.
Right.
Oh, yeah, sure.
And you don't want to shove them off.
Yeah, it's
I don't like this world
very
anymore.
delicate. Yeah, very delicate.
But again, you're gonna know this person. So you're gonna know what you're comfortable with and what you can tell them about that, about any physical contact.
And on the last subject of whatever it was, promote independence. Carol says you're going to know this person. You're going to know what you can say to them. You say, now, Fred, we talked about this. This is something I think you should do. You can do it. I think you should try to do it yourself. You know what you're going to, how that's going to go when you can do it. Okay. Now, we're getting into the how to know when to refer. So we're talking to this person and things are going one way or another, and you're trying to make a decision of whether or not you can do it or whether somebody else needs to be involved. So since it is important that you try not to care for severely depressed persons or for those who may soon become severely depressed, and you got to have a crystal ball, I guess, we are going to work on how to know when it is time to refer a depressed care receiver to a mental health professional. The focus note on page 298, focus note 12, talks about the types of depression. And of course, they are mild, moderate, and severe. And you can see, well, you can't see either, because I don't have it up there. You can see that it's on a continuum from light to dark there. Remember, too, that you could be anywhere on that continuum, and that it is possible for mild or moderate depression quickly to become severe depression. let's read, there's three, on focus on 12, there's mild depression, moderate depression, and severe depression. Why don't we divide those up and you guys read those? Somebody can start off with the mild depression.
Mild depression is the most common and can be brought on by both happy and sad events. A wedding is certainly happy, but is also very stressful, and the stress can be depressing. Another common cause is childbirth, which may lead to postpartum blues. While sometimes mild postpartum depression can become extremely severe.
Moderate depression, or a feeling of hopelessness, lasts longer and is more intense. Moderate depression is often brought on by a sad event, such as the death of a loved one or loss of a job. It usually does not interfere with daily living, but can become severe. If it persists, professional help may be warranted.
Severe depression can cause a person to lose interest in the outside world, can cause physical changes, and can lead to suicide. A person with severe depression requires professional treatment.
We went on a call with MHMR. You know what MHMR is, I'm hearing it. To a suicide where the lady had 3 little kids and a brand new one. Right? She had 3 and then like a 6-month-old. And her depression, postpartum depression, got to the point to where she finally took her life. And she had 3 little kids and a husband. So, postpartum depression. Let's look at this next slide. This illustrates the likelihood of your involvement with a care receiver. And you can see here that the further you go along the continuum, the less likely you are to be involved with providing care for that care receiver. So it can, maybe be out to here, and then you need to start thinking about something else. Now, of course, all you got to do is look at that chart when you're with somebody, and you'll be able to figure it out. Okay, I'm on the chart right here. Obviously, that's not the case, and it's impossible to do that. If it was that easy, it'd be wonderful. Alrighty. Notice that the Stephen minister will never be the primary caregiver for severely depressed care receivers. Stephen ministers simply are not qualified to provide that kind of care. Unless, of course, you are also trained psychologists or maybe a psychiatrist. Focus note 13 contains a list of danger signals, any of which mean that a care receiver is approaching severe depression and that you should refer him or her for professional help. Let's take a couple of minutes to read these to yourself. And I'm going to give you time to actually read those. Notice how many times hope comes up. Okay. I'm done with that. Let's look then at the chart. Focus note 14, page 300. Ask yourselves these questions. Has there been thoughts of suicide with your care receiver? Has depression interfered with work or family for more than a brief period? Have 4 or more of the characteristics of depression persisted 2 weeks or longer? Have any of the danger signs in Focus Note 13 arisen? If the answer to these things is no, then you're good to go. It's appropriate for you to continue caring as a Stephen minister without suggesting professional help. However, if any the answers are yes, and it doesn't have to, they don't have to pile on top of one another or come in order. But if any of the answers to this is yes, and of course there's going to be times when, there's variation on all of this, but in general, if you can follow these questions and answers, if the answer is yes to any of these, then get professional help.
I just want to mention, it also says that the postpartum blues, that they call it, will be covered more in depth in Module 24 when you go over that, crisis of pregnancy and childbirth. So they're not just skimming over that. You'll address that.
Quick question, Larry.
Okay.
So on the boxes on the left, you have the 4 or more characteristics of depression, and then you have on the box underneath that the danger signals. So the danger signals are what we just went over in Focus 13. But just on the characteristics of depression, is there a list for that, or did I miss something? Or is it just?
Well, I'm assuming that was in the reading, and I just missed it.
The dangers, what was the question?
Here's characteristics of depression.
They're
They're in Focus Note 13.
The danger signals are in 13, but he's asking about the characteristics.
The one above that says have 4 more of the characteristics. Maybe 283, 284 characteristics of depression. Got it. Sorry.
Did you find something?
Yeah, starting on page 283, there's characteristics of depression. I'm sorry.
Don't be too quick to recommend professional help for a depressed care receiver who may be dying or who is grieving the death of someone near, because depression is a normal part of coming to terms with those kinds of issues. If someone who is dying or grieving is suicidal, however, then you know, of course, that they need help, and you should seek that for them. Any questions on that section before we
There's a break.
take a quick break? Let's do 10 minutes, and we'll come back at about 9:40.
Go!
Okay. How to know when to refer part 2. Focus Note 15 on pages 301 and 302 contains brief descriptions of 10 caregiving situations. We'll look at them one at a time and discuss as a whole class whether the situations would be times when you should refer a depressed care receiver to a mental health professional. And we'll take 15 minutes for this discussion. And I believe then this is the end of it, because we want to try to stay as close to 10 o'clock as we can. Okay,
I'll go first. Right?
Larry, yes. To refer or not to refer?
I will read these, and then we'll discuss each one before we go on to the next one. Your care receiver says, I have been feeling very sad every day since Al died. It's been 3 weeks now, and I wonder whether this sadness is ever going to go away.
Refer or not refer?
I don't think so.
No.
It's too soon after a death.
Why?
It's too soon after a death. You need to be sad.
They're experiencing natural grief reaction.
He knows
The
why it's
cause.
sad.
Yeah.
Or she knows.
That's very important. He knows the cause. Your care receiver has been feeling sadder and sadder every week. He or she finds it difficult to talk about his or her feelings. At your visits, he or she frequently just sits quietly with a very sad facial expression. When you ask whether your care receiver knows why he or she is feeling so bad, the person just shrugs and shakes their head. Refer or not refer?
I wouldn't, but I would call it moderate. They're getting more depressed.
You would not refer.
No.
Probably not.
Probably not.
I think I would,
Cause someone to die.
You
I think
would?
I would refer.
I would
Bob? You would refer?
Why would you do that?
I think, because for me, the direction, sadder and sadder, you know, it's going toward,
It's intensifying.
yes.
There's no communication. I mean, they're not saying anything. They're not getting anything out of them.
They're not able to tell you, and that is so important. If they can't tell you why, because that's what we keep hearing from people who have attempted suicide, who have come to our group. They don't know why they're depressed.
Okay, anything else on that one for anyone? All right, number 3, your care receiver complains of having headaches and feeling exhausted every day, but his or her physician cannot find any physical reason for the headaches. This has been going on for more than 2 months. What do you think?
Yes?
Yes.
No? Yes? Yeah. It could possibly indicate severe depression.
It's
care-
a physical complaint and no obvious reason. Yeah, Bob.
So as we're deciding this, I mean, these are actual, I mean, I can see where these are actual situations.
Could be.
But nothing's definitive
Okay, but I guess where I'm going is that,
on this particular scenario.
should we err, or should our decision be, should our decision be
Yes.
on, you know, well, you know, I can't explain, but you know what I'm trying to say.
It's better to err.
Be safe than sorry, or whatever.
On the side of discretion.
Again, I want to stress to you, you're going to know, you know, after you've met with this person, you're going to
Right.
know this person. And so the least, if you have a gut feeling that something isn't quite right, talk to your leader. Share your feelings with someone else and get their take on it. But if you've got that gut, go with your gut feeling that there may be more going on than what you're actually seeing from this person. Your care receiver is dying. They've been feeling very sad for weeks and have recently become withdrawn and uncommunicative. He or her illness is in its final stages and they may die soon. Refer or not refer?
It sounds like a hospice kind of situation.
If you knew you were dying, I'd be depressed, you know? So,
Remember a little while back, it said if someone is dying, that's considered normal sadness. You know, normal, as much as that situation can be normal. But at least there's a reason for the sadness.
So you're saying, no,
No, do not.
take no action?
If you think it's leaning toward, if they're leaning toward ending it quickly, more, you know, more sooner, then obviously they're considering suicide. And then you would refer.
Okay.
Number 5, your care receiver recently said, "I have been feeling so bad for so long, anything would be better than this. I've been thinking about Carl and how he's with Jesus now. I'll bet he's feeling a lot happier than I am. I've been thinking that I'd like to join him in heaven. I've been collecting all of his leftover pain pills. I know I should throw them away, but I've been hanging on to them just in case.
That's pretty,
That's pretty obvious.
yeah. It is.
The important thing here is he's talking about it. He's
Has a plan.
described the plan for it, and he's got the means to carry out the plan. So that's going to come up over and over again.
Your care receiver says, I used to think I was a good husband and father, but I haven't thought that for months now. I have been feeling so tired all the time. I don't even have the energy to play catch with Susie, and I used to love doing that. It's as if I've turned into a drag on the family rather than a contributor. Refer or not refer?
Refer.
Yes, yes. They're feeling, he's feeling like he is a burden to his family, and we hear that all the time in our group. They feel that they're a burden.
It's important to know or to recognize that more often than not, these feelings of being a burden are just perceived feelings. Of course, the family is going to say, in most cases, it's never a burden. There was never a situation where they were burdened, but the individual feels like they're a burden.
And this kind of goes hand in hand with what we talked about earlier, where their friends sometimes give up on them and family members don't have a lot of patience with them because they get tired of hearing this over and over, and then they look at this person and this person doesn't seem to be doing anything to help themselves get better. That's how Chris's brothers were with him. You know, you go, okay, I'm tired of this, you know, because you're not doing anything to make it better. But they can't. So they do perceive that they're a burden and a drag on the family. They think the family, Chris wrote in a journal about 3 months before he took his life. He didn't journal much, but we found it after he died. He said, I have planned my death. I want my family to be happy. Now, that tells you where his mind was, you know, because those two don't go together. So they feel they're a burden. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Number 7, your care receiver says, how long is this going to last? I've had enough of feeling this way. It's been 6 months since Alice and I split up, and I still can't think about her without feeling furious. I feel exhausted all the time, and I'm beginning to think this will never end. Meanwhile, where's God? I used to pray and believe God heard me. Now I think He's deserted me.
That's a yes.
The care receiver has been feeling very sad about losing.
Let's
Oh, I'm sorry.
go back to this one. Obviously, he's going to refer, but why do you think this?
There is, let's see. It says, how long has this been going to last? I've had enough of feeling this way, so there's a little bit of hopelessness there. There's that.
6 months.
Plus, he's still angry with Alice.
Yeah. If you've been experiencing 4 or more of the characteristics of depression for more than 2 weeks.
The care receiver's been feeling very sad about losing his or her job and has not been able to find a new job. Suddenly, however, he or she seems very upbeat. They say the Bible says to rejoice in every situation, so that's what I'm doing. They also say I was looking at the family Bible that my great-grandfather started keeping records in, and it has been passed down to me. I gave it to Colin yesterday. It's time to pass it on to the next heir in the family.
The word heir already gives it away.
Refer or not refer?
Oh, yes.
Chris took his life in January of 2010, and in June of 2009, he was giving stuff away. Which he said he gave a four-wheeler to his twin brother's son. And at the time, you know, Jay thought, oh, how nice, because Chris said, you know, I'm not riding it much anymore, and Jay didn't think anything about it. Then after Chris died, it started to click. So, yes, definitely refer. Go, Larry.
Yes, ma'am. Number 9. Your care receiver says, I think my family has been having meetings without me and talking about what to do with me. It occurred to me that they may have put me away they may have me put away in a mental asylum, or that they might kick me out of the house and make me live on the streets.
Read for her. Read for her, for heaven's sake.
Why would you do that? What do you recognize in this that would make you come to that conclusion?
It's like hearing voices. My family's having meetings about me and they're gonna put me away.
Yeah, it's kind of distorting.
Right, conspiring.
Yeah.
Paranoid.
Paranoia, yeah.
Your care receiver says I've been feeling sad and wanting to cry ever since Walter moved out and went to college. I call him once a week and feel better for a while, but whenever I walk past his room, I really miss him. I'm able to forget about these feelings when I'm at work and when Joe and I work in the garden or go out to eat, but there always seems to be a time every day that I remember Walt and start feeling sad again. Refer or not refer?
Not refer.
We all have empty nests.
He misses it.
Yeah. But then you get over it real fast and you clean out the room.
Yep.
Your
But they
rent
always
room.
come back.
Yeah, they
The
come
rent money for
back.
the room is great.
Yeah.
You can give them a little money and they're off again. What the heck?
This is 45 minutes. We're already running over. Is there anything you can cut
Well,
down?
let's just see like that.
Okay.
All right. Moving on. Skill practice, caring for mildly to moderately depressed persons. Okay, what we're going to do is get in groups of, let's do 3 and 2, okay? So you'll have a caregiver, you'll have a care receiver, and then you'll have an observer. The group with 2 in it, you won't have an observer. You'll just switch off going back and forth, all right? So you guys, I don't know if you can stay out of the picture there. You know, you don't want to upset Dave there and get in the picture. But, maybe you guys can move over a little bit at the end or something. And you ladies can go. Okay.
We're going.
For skill practice number 1, you're going to choose which one of you guys are going to be which, the care receiver, or the caregiver.
I want to be the receiver. I'm guilty.
Okay, for the Stephen Minister, your instructions are on focus note 16. Read only yours, okay? Care receiver, your instructions are in focus note 17. And then for the observer, you read both 16 and 17, all right? So I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to do that. Okay. Okay, let's wrap it up
Yeah, she's got her reasons for what.
and look at the focus note on number 18 on page 303. And observer, you're the discussion leader, so you can see what they did right, what they might have done better, or so on.
I thought Pat was very, displayed somewhat of a grief. She was very non-communicative, wanted to just not almost be a part of it. And Julie was very patient and just sort of started peeling away, affirmed her sadness, and just sort of led to a little path of a more positive venue with reasons as to why, you know, and maybe to be more open to change, you know, not see it as hopeless so much. She addressed it with other solutions, provided some general guidance, I thought.
Okay. Do you guys have any input that you wanted to make on that, or? Okay,
She,
problem solved?
well, I don't know that it's solid, but you could see that she was seeing a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel.
Okay, yeah. So you kind of, which, you know, we're not trying to solve these problems, we're just trying to give you some experience and how it might go. You guys want to add anything about how yours went?
I didn't feel like it went very well.
Oh, really?
That's okay. What happened?
That's fine.
Well, I primarily, I'm the student minister. My approach was just to ask questions, to draw him out and get him to talk about it. And he was very good at not talking.
Yeah, he played his role pretty well.
Pardon?
He played his role pretty well.
Yeah, he played it too well.
And then I can see where that's going to be a challenge as a
Yes.
student minister. When, when someone doesn't want to talk to you,
If you've got
and
somebody
is intent on that.
I think women are more willing to talk, even in the play acting
Yeah.
world. I think women want to get our word in.
When we went through our training with MHMR.
I was going to say, I think you're right, but
Yeah, you are. We had to sort of do something similar to this, and one of the mental health professionals, it's always important if you're trying to get them to do something, what they can do, it's better for them to make the suggestion what they can do rather than for you to put that idea in their mind. So Phyllis said it was very important that they're the decision makers. They come up with the ideas because then maybe they will follow through with them. So in this case, when she, depressed, lost her husband, best friend, she needs to come up with some ideas. But then, like you said, they might not talk to you.
okay, let's go on to the next one then.
That's a tough hurdle.
Well, now you can reverse roles and you can do the same thing to him.
I'll show you. All right, for skill practice
She wasn't
2,
thinking that until you brought that up. Thank you very much.
let's, same routine here, let's switch roles, okay? Everybody in this number 3 group here, do something different, all right? And you guys switch over here. I'll give you 2 minutes to look at that. Observer, focus note 19 and 20. Student minister, focus note only 19. Care receiver, focus note 20. So, go. Go ahead, if you guys are ready, go ahead. Got 5 minutes.
Okay, I guess.
I'm glad you came by today because I had figured out how to get out of my depression.
I thought I was good.
I gotta learn
Payback.
not to laugh.
Payback.
Yeah. That's the answer.
You have the answer.
That's always the case, I know.
I saw a new car today.
I've seen really good.
I've got to have it. I know it'll
I think you should.
change my life and make everything perfect.
I could just tool around town in that little red car.
Except,
Don't know how I'm gonna pay for it.
I don't have the money, I don't have credit that will allow me to borrow the money.
I think so. I I hope so.
Like a
Favorite car.
Yes.
Sounds nice, but,
It's real nice.
in a really painful day today, or, I mean, how's that gonna help?
And we've been looking for a while.
I'll be happy whenever I am done.
I'm gonna put these on the table.
Look at the focus note 18 and the same questions we had for the last one, and let's discuss what you found. We had a little fun with this one, but I don't remember what the underlying goal here is. This is a guy making a big decision at an inappropriate time. Were you the observer?
Yes, I was. Julie's solution to her problem was she missed her daily routine, even though she didn't like some of the people she worked with and this kind of stuff, just normal. And she was feeling down, but she had seen a red Mercedes. So she was picturing herself driving around in this red Mercedes. She said it was, she wanted it, so she needed it. So she was really gung-ho to get it. Then Terry started talking to her about the payments and the insurance and that she really needed. And it went back and forth. She asked her how she was going to pay for it and finally had to come up with, well, why don't you wait a while before you get this car? And she finally said that she would maybe look for a used one after a while. But hey, it's hard to talk a blonde out of a red Mercedes convertible. I've had my sympathy for her. Anyway, I thought she did real well with not telling her what to do, but making suggestions and also suggesting, well, you know, if you get it, you got to do this and that. But she wanted it.
All right. But you guys, you have any luck changing his mind?
Would he speak to you at all?
Yeah, he had a big plan, you know, and just a spur of the moment idea to get a car. And I tried, not very well, not very convincingly tried to have him just slow down in his thought process and think about it a little bit more. And, I don't think I was very successful.
Okay. All right. I don't know. I'll ask the leader. Would you get into the area of, hey, you know, you just already had this big event in your life, and you know, making a big decision right now, you really think that's the right thing to do for you in your situation?
There's nothing wrong with asking the question and seeing what the primary motivation is behind buying the car and figuring out whether or not that car is actually going to solve whatever that feeling or desire
Go
is.
back to the root of the problem, like
Sure.
big event, retirement, another big event, you think it's time, you think it's wise to do something?
And, you know, part of the training that we've preceding this has been to use I statements, right?
Absolutely.
So as a Stephen minister, I mean, would it be appropriate in some form or fashion to say, you know, I don't, you know, just come right out, and if you know the person well, say, you know, I don't think that's a good idea, and, you know, let's put together some
Well, you can do
thoughts.
that. You can do that in a different way. You can say, you know, that's one course of action, but what are the ramifications? You know, you're retiring is going to, a lot of times implies reduced income, and here you are taking on additional debt. Do you feel like this is the right time to take on additional debt?
Yeah.
And then there was the option over here where she suggested, well, maybe I'll look at a used car. That's, you know, less of a payment maybe and less insurance and so forth.
Okay, well, good. You know, Dave, we actually do have another role play in this section. I missed it.
Is it a good one?
It's not bad.
Okay.
You want to?
2 volunteers?
We'll go ahead and do with it.
I need 2 volunteers. We're gonna do 1 role play out in front. I'm gonna capture it all on camera. I need 2 volunteers.
Maybe one from each group.
We could do that, even though, just for the record, care receivers and caregivers are the same gender or sex, however you look at it nowadays.
Oh,
but yeah.
that's true. You're right. Okay.
But I've got no problem with that for training purposes. I just need 2 volunteers.
Yeah, that's the first part.
I don't have to. Am I going to have to roll dice on church grounds?
On film, it's a whole different.
I volunteer too late.
Okay, volunteer 2 for me. I like that. That's initiative. Who we got, Ed? I'm taking you up.
Okay, I volunteer Pat and Terry.
There you go.
All
Yay!
right. Thank you, Ed.
Pat and Terry, I need your front and center, please.
Marking that down. Ed.
Yeah, I knew you'd take it.
That's right, because we have 1 more module.
Well, I can be the whiner. I like being the whiner.
That's the job.
Okay. Do you need your book?
I'll probably do that.
Yeah, you need your. Look at it. Everybody else is going to be observers. These 2 are going to be Stephen Minister and the care receiver.
Which note is this, or which?
You're on focus note 22, the care receiver.
21, 22.
And ladies, when you do your discussion, just talk loudly, plainly. Even if you cry out loud, that's fine.
Stephen Minister, your focus note is 21, so you know the drill. I'm going to give you a little bit of time to look at that. Okay.
Ready?
Go ahead, 5 minutes.
Hey Pat, how you doing?
I decided I have to quit my job. I'm gonna go in Monday and just tell that man I'm leaving.
Oh, why? What's going on?
Well, I've been in the same job for years, and 6 years, and I'm not getting any more money. He never gives me a raise, or responsibilities. It's like being a file clerk. You're just filing all the time.
Yeah, that can get very annoying, I'm sure. Have you listed down your issues or, have you put down your goals, what you're wanting? Do they even know them?
Well, I'd asked for a raise a couple of times. Didn't get it. So I think I just need to move on.
Yeah. But do you like the job overall?
Well, it's a job, it's a paycheck, and I need money.
Well, before you so abruptly quit, don't you think maybe you should be looking for another job now and then consider making the move then? Because if you just quit, that can be sort of another situation.
That's
right?
true, but when you're at work, you don't have time to go for job interviews. You just can't. But it seems like if I quit, I'd have the time to look for a job and be able to go for interviews.
Maybe you can start networking with other people, seeing what's out there before you really make that move.
Well, I don't really know where to go to start.
Well, there's a lot of different places that can maybe be of assistance, and maybe some of your friends or people at church may have some ideas, or...
Well, I guess I could try that. It's, because I do need the money. I can't just do without a paycheck.
Right? Yeah, you don't want any setbacks, for sure, so this can help.
Well, I guess you're right. I probably need to stop being so mad and just start looking.
That, and maybe you can journal some of the things that are of interest to you. And maybe there's opportunities out there that you haven't really seen before, because now you're at a point of looking at it in a different direction.
Yeah, I think you're probably right there. That's probably a better plan than just walking out mad.
Yeah, that wouldn't solve much, I don't think, maybe for the day.
Maybe feel good to kill somebody off.
Yeah, I'm sure, but probably long-term, you wouldn't feel good about that.
No. And then, I'm sure people would be gossiping about it, and I wouldn't like that, so.
Yeah, then that's another element we'd have to look at, huh?
Are we done? Are we done? Yay!
We were done till you said kill somebody off. I thought maybe she needed to talk to you a little bit longer. So is this a real Pat or is this a role play Pat?
Well, you never know.
Will the real Pat please stand up?
Okay, how do you think that went, observers? Any ideas, what went right? What do you think maybe they could have done differently?
Well, she seemed to get, Terry led Pat into becoming more comfortable with not being rash about it and making a decision. So I thought it went pretty well.
Okay, all right. Anybody else?
Gave her ideas for networking.
Yeah? So what do you guys think?
I thought Terry did
Looking
really
back.
well. Really. I was trying to feed as much
Yeah.
joke as I could.
Yeah. You were trying to be disruptive as much as possible and you couldn't do it. All right, then, let's look at this one here about the whole thing. And give you a minute to look at that. And one or all of those questions, you got any comments? I kind of like number 2 there. What do you think will be the most challenging part caring for mildly to moderately depressed person?
I was talking with Ed out in the hall during our break, and I brought up that second. And I think for me, it's going to be a challenge to deal with depression, or if I see it, only because, well, for one of the reasons is that a lot of the other things that we have to deal with, I have empathy because I probably felt those same feelings. Or in depression, I haven't felt those feelings. So to be able to see it and then to be able to empathize with it, I think is going to be something I'm going to have to learn how to do and learn how to see and open up my eyes. And
Yeah. And then find the right words.
yes, yes.
Because your focus is trying to help that person, Empathy, if you can develop that, that goes a long way. Okay. Anything else struck you about any of this? I think you guys did really well. I'm going to go to this caregiver's compass review right now and let you do that later in your own time, maybe on the break after lunch, and then presume that you have another one coming up. Well, we know that, but we're going to do it. Helping suicidal person get the help they need.
Handouts for you, and I gave you one of our cards for our group in case you come across someone that maybe has. I think there's a chance that you could be assigned someone who is a suicide survivor. And so I've given you a card there, and
We'll talk about our group a little bit more
Yeah,
later.
but
and
I
why we
gave
think
you a
it's good
card.
idea for you. Okay, let's close with a prayer. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Lord Jesus, you know the pain of loss and the agony of abandonment. You know how it feels to be depressed. Be near our care receivers when they feel the pain of loss and the agony of abandonment. be present in and through us, and use us to care for them patiently as they suffer. Also be a source of joy in us and through us. Help us to know and to show that while weeping may endure for the night, joy comes in the morning. Amen. In the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Okay, probably going to take a little bit of a short break. All right. We are ready.
Introduce yourselves.
Oh, we're going to do that again?
No, I'm just kidding.
I thought maybe for the sake. Okay, Module 14, I hope you can see that okay. Do we need to turn out a light?
There is a light across the side though.
Yeah, there is a light shining on
Let's
it.
try one.
Oh, wrong one.
No, that's okay.
That's the window.
There you go.
Save on electricity.
That's all right. Okay, here we go. Module 14, helping suicidal persons get the help they need. Again, we're going to be using your training manual very extensively. And once again, the goal, be able to help suicidal persons get the help they need. And we'll expand on emphasizing help them get the help that they need. And the objectives related to that, first of all, know that your responsibility is to refer someone that you believe to be suicidal to a qualified caregiver. And along the way, gain a more thorough Christian understanding of suicide. And we've given you what I think is a really good handout on that. Two priests, Father Rollheiser and the other one, I can't remember his name, but they're very good. Understand better why people commit suicide, something that is a never-ending question in our support group. Why? And then apply your understanding and your experience as caregivers in the grief ministry to caring for survivors of suicide. Now, this is something different. The survivor of suicide is like Carol and I, okay? This is not somebody, we use that term, it's not somebody who has attempted suicide and didn't complete it. This is a person who had lost someone to suicide, lost a loved one to suicide. So if you run across somebody like that in your assignments, then we'll talk about what to do and where possibly they can get help. Determine the level of suicide risk in hypothetical situations, so we're going to do some more of those. Know what to do if you have a suicidal care receiver. And in practice, again, relating to suicidal persons. The takeaway in those objectives, you know what your responsibility is, and that's to refer. Determine the level of suicide risk, low, moderate, or high, and then know what to do once you've made that determination. So that's what we're trying to understand. And these are the sections in the module that we're going to be covering. Carol will start us off with the inseparable. And then we'll do an assessment, or assessing the risk of suicide at low, moderate, or high. And then steps to take. So if you believe that your person may be suicidal, another skill practice, and then wrap it up with the caregiver's compass review and the handouts. And once again, the takeaway from that is assessing the risk and then the steps to take. Carol is going to, we may need more light.
Yes.
We need a little
Yeah.
light.
We can't see.
May fall asleep.
This one or this one?
That's good.
So dark and I accent. It'll work.
Is that okay?
Suicide is an intensely painful and deeply personal tragedy. Whatever specific circumstances lead people to suicide, It is almost certain that they were experiencing deep inner turmoil. The profound emotional pain that leads people to suicide typically continues long after their death in the lives of those that are left behind to grieve the loss. Survivors rarely know for sure what led a loved one to take their life. They never have a chance to say goodbye. They struggle with blame and guilt and the woulda, coulda, shoulda. Suicide is simply terrifying and tragic. We cannot undo what has been done or reverse irreversible consequences. The helplessness may be the most profound pain of all. Where can we go for help in such times? The Bible invites us to go to God both with our concern about the eternal destiny of the one who committed suicide, as well for strength to minister to grieving victims. The verses are printed at the top of page 327 of your outline and focus notes. Would someone please read them aloud?
For I am convinced that neither death nor life, neither angels nor demons, neither the present nor the future, nor any powers, neither height nor depth, nor anything else in all creation will be able to separate us from the love of God that is in Christ Jesus our Lord.
Paul begins chapter 8 of Romans with the words, "Therefore there is now no condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus." Romans 8:1. And he ends the chapter with the stirring words you just heard read. Amid the many issues involved in suicide, it is good for us to stay focused on this single truth that echoes throughout this chapter and the whole scriptures. God accepts and loves us because of Jesus, and not even in death, no matter what kind of death, can separate us from Him. In the handout that we're going to be giving you after we finish this is this paper. It is my very favorite of everything that I have read, because those of us that have lost someone to suicide, we get a lot of people that come into our group who worry about the souls of those people. Not just the Catholics, because our group is non-denominational. We actually have one young lady that was a member of the church in Bedford, and they refused to have a funeral mass for her mother. And so she lived with this until she came to our group and heard us talk about that God loves everyone. Only God knows the human heart well enough to make the awesome judgment about a person's salvation. Facing death can be a time of isolation, anguish, and despair. For the suicidal person, there are often mental issues of depression, hopelessness, and seeing no choices but one. They are not thinking rationally of the consequences or the effect on their family and larger community. And while we can only presume the pain that they are feeling, we are also not in the position to know what their relationship with God was during those last moments. The church cannot preempt God's judgment in these matters, and so we do not know or guess the fate of those who died. It is true that the church once forbade a funeral mass in the circumstances of suicide. The reasoning was that allowing such a mass might be interpreted as condoning the act of taking a life. But since it is not our place to judge the person's state of mind, what happened in those final moments or in their relationship with God, a funeral mass is said. And we did have a funeral mass for Chris. But there are just some beautiful things that you might want to hang on to if you're ever assigned a suicide survivor. What does the Bible say about those who commit suicide? Nowhere does the Bible specifically state that those who commit suicide will not be saved. In fact, the Bible never comments about the morality of suicide. But when suicide happens, there is something we can state with absolute surety. that our God is a God of mercy and compassion, and because of Jesus, nothing can separate us from him. And what about the strength we need to minister to the survivors of suicide? Our God, who remains so firmly connected to us, supplies the courage and wisdom we need. What you will be learning in this module are skills that help you to embody and express God's mercy and compassion for those who might be contemplating suicide, as well as for those who are devastated by a loved one's suicide. You want to be Christ for them because Christ alone can console what is an inconsolable loss, and give peace that surpasses human understanding. Let us pray. God of mercy and compassion, we pray for those so troubled and torn that they would consider ending their lives. Be with them, rescue them, and protect them. Send them people who care and can lead them out of the wilderness of suffering to a place in their lives where they can experience forgiveness, freedom, and joy. Give us hearts of mercy and compassion toward all who suffer so profoundly, especially those who have lost someone to suicide. Comfort and console them as only you can. Use us to embody your mercy and compassion in our caring ministry, that both we and those we minister to may thank and praise you for the precious gift of life. We ask this in the name of our compassionate Savior, Jesus. Amen. In the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit.
Can I ask a question before this?
Sure.
Is there anything in the Catholic Catechism pertaining to
About suicide?
suicide?
Yes,
I've got one else. There's no help here.
I'll pull it up and we'll read it later.
Yeah, I bet there is.
If there is, and it's negative, ignore it.
That's not what it is.
It's not gonna be negative.
Okay, assessing the risk of suicide. Okay, this is role-playing time again. Dave, you want to wait till we've done one before you record somebody, put somebody in the middle here? Oh, you want to do it now? Okay. Well, let's see here. The gals did it a while ago. I wonder what we should do now.
Okay, guys,
What?
take your spots.
Okay. But
We need to read this.
first, do some reading.
Right.
Let's not go directly into this thing. I thought I had something else here.
Yeah, let's wait.
Yeah.
It doesn't get any easier.
Mañana.
Some, you will never knowingly be assigned someone who is suicidal. Know that up front, okay? And if you are, then
Go talk to Maria.
please want you to do that. Since your job as a suicidal caregiver, receiver, since your job with a suicidal care receiver is to help him or her get professional help, you need to be able to make an educated guess about where they are on that continuum of how great the immediate risk of suicide is in different situations. So that's what the work for this session is making that guess about the risk of suicide. When you assess suicide risk, it will be helpful to know some risk categories and to know what they mean. Focus note 1 on page 327 lists 3 categories of suicide risk and explains what each level of risk entails. Why don't we start over here, Ed, and do the low risk, and we'll go around. Read the low risk
Okay.
level.
Assess the immediate risk as low if you believe the person may be thinking about suicide, but you're not sure, as you can be, that he or she has no plan to kill him or herself at this time.
Before we go on, underline, highlight, or whatever, something in here. Maybe thinking about suicide. Maybe thinking about suicide. No plan.
And that's, maybe they haven't even said that, but you're getting an inclination?
Could be, yeah. Yeah. But if you're getting, later on, you'll find out that if you're getting an inclination, then you ask. You ask the question. We'll talk about that.
Moderate risk. Assess the immediate risk as moderate if you believe your care receiver plans to attempt suicide, but you are as sure as you can be that he or she did not plan to attempt suicide right away.
Okay. Highlight plans to attempt suicide. Not plan, but no plan right away. Terry, you want to do the high risk?
High risk. Assess the immediate risk as high if the care receiver has a specific and legal suicide plan and the means to do it readily at hand. This indicates that the care receiver plans to die by suicide very soon.
What would you underline or highlight there?
Specific and legal suicide plan.
Right. And
The means to
means
do it.
to do it. And we talked about this a little earlier. Remember the better safe than sorry principle. If you are in doubt, choose the higher level of risk. Okay, now we're going to do the exercise. And before we do that, look at focus note 2. And it says here not to take the time to read this in class. But just know, as I'm still going to give you a little time to look at it. Just know that in any of these situations, the life situation or the clues that people may be suicide, or in determining the immediate risk, that you may never know the answers to any of these questions. It may, we put it this way, it might not be apparent to you. So, ask these questions. If these questions come up, and if it's in your mind, ask the question. Some people say that, oh, I don't want to bring up suicide because that might give them, put the idea in their
Give them
head.
the idea.
You're going to do that. That's not going to happen. You're not going to give somebody the idea that you're doing suicide.
Follow your gut. Call your Stephen leader. If you are really concerned about this person, call your Stephen leader.
And the third section of that focus note, determining how great the immediate risk of suicide is, ask these questions. Okay? Ask them outright. Are you thinking of taking your own life? Do you have a plan for that? How would you do it? Those three things is going to give you the inclination of where they are in their thought process. And that'll help you know what to do about it.
And I just want to say one thing. In one of the times that we presented this module, there was a young lady in training, and she was really very concerned about carrying that load. She said, because it's iffy. Because it's not, if it was clear cut and dried, it would be easy. But she is very concerned about taking on that responsibility of having a care receiver that might be contemplating suicide. Please understand, it would never, ever, ever be your fault. So that's why I say, share with your Stephen leader if you have any feelings that something could be going on with this person. Always err on the side of, yes, I'm going to talk about this with somebody else. But always remember, you would not be the cause of that person taking their life. I mean, it's gonna affect you, you're gonna feel bad about it, but it is not your burden.
Okay. You just want to do the two in the middle? Dave? Okay.
Gentlemen,
Which focus note are we?
We're gonna use,
3 and 4.
hold on, let's see here. Focus note 1. No, we're past that.
Because there's 2 care receivers there.
Okay. Focus notes 3 through 7, so you're going to start with 3. all right? And we're going to answer the questions at the bottom of each focus note. And we're going to do as many as possible in 10 minutes, okay? So,
It's up to you if we do it in front or in their groups.
what's that?
I'll let you make the decision whether we do it up front or in their groups, depending on, I'm not looking at what you're looking at, so
All right.
if it
Well,
works, then it works. If it doesn't, then
Yeah, it kind of.
it's your call.
It kind of doesn't, but we can make it work if
I'm not worried about it, as long as we get at least
Okay.
one.
The idea here is to take 10 minutes and go through all of these focus groups, 3 through 7, and ask yourself the question at the end of each one of them. And if we can get through all of them, great. If we can't, then we obviously we won't do that. So start now with focus note number 3.
Please, those of you at home,
Discuss it amongst
do focus
yourselves.
note 3 on your own.
1, the 35-year-old divorced woman, she calls you on the phone and she's considering suicide. Let's say, first of all, let's get some ideas how you assessed this, where she was.
Well, she has a close friend who's, she could confide in a doctor who's sympathetic, but she's pretty good.
And she has a detailed plan for cutting the wrist. She has a knife, and she's written a suicide note. I mean, that's what,
She's in physical pain. We think she's high.
I think she's out. I think Bob, I know everybody's zeroed in on that, but Bob nailed it. She's got the plan. Or does she? Does she have a plan?
Yeah.
she's written a suicide note.
She's got
Yeah,
it.
she's got the plan. She's got the knife beside her.
When someone calls like that, though, and here, I'm gonna cut my wrist, I've got my knife sitting here, I'm reading my notes, aren't they just wanting you to talk them out of it?
There's lots of schools of thought on that. One says don't take it lightly, you know. The other, you know, and to take it very, very seriously. The other one is they don't want, nobody wants to kill themselves. And I got a whole long thing to tell you about that, but we don't have time. But nobody really wants, it goes against our basic instinct. A bug crawling across the floor will try to get out of your way. I mean, they don't want you to step on it. So our basic instinct is to stay alive. And in many cases, they want to stay alive as well. Especially somebody who wants to call you. Yeah. If you got the right words, you can probably save their life. Okay, so that one, obviously, high risk of suicide, and you need to take some steps, and that's in the next section. How about number 2, Mr. B, 66 years old, heart disease.
He's hopeless, he's had it for 6 months. He stockpiled pills for the last month. I would say that he's pointing towards a higher risk of suicide.
And he's calm and hopeful and he's receptive.
What's significant about that? That he is calm, and
He's
what's that say?
made up his mind, he knows what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
He's at peace with it.
He's reached a decision, he's reached what he thinks to be a solution to his problem.
He wants to be with his wife.
So this is a high,
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, he has,
He's on that one.
he's got a plan, like you said earlier, Bob, he's got a lethal plan, he's got the means to carry out the plan. And the thing is, suddenly he's calm, like he's reached a decision. Okay, number 3, Mrs. C, Japanese-American woman, husband was a serviceman. What do you think?
Well, you know, she obviously is suicidal in this because she has tried it a few weeks ago, I think 3 weeks ago, yeah, but failed. And her husband has now taken pills away from her access, or she's taking morphine. So it was kind of borderline for me between moderate and high, but there's no question she's thinking about suicide. And I don't want the responsibility of not doing something.
There's a factor that's not mentioned in this story. She's young, and she is away from her family and her culture.
Yeah. And she sort of has no one.
Feels like she's got friends, and her husband's got a new job where he's working more, and that does leave you feeling alone. I've been there.
Let me tell you,
12-hour days.
this one is kind of borderline, as you said. It actually says here it's a moderate risk, but let me tell you the reasons why. The factors that could point to a lower suicide risk: that she has close friends in whom she can confide. Her plan is kind of vague. It's not really specific. And she does not, at this time, have the means available. And she has no idea where to get more pills. And her husband is now intervening and showing his care by removing the means for her to kill herself. Now, those are the things that point to a lower risk. But there's also things that point to a higher risk. She has just suffered a loss of her husband's time with her. She feels unable to talk to her husband about her feelings. She feels worthless, and she's recently attempted suicide. And she does have a lethal plan for killing herself, but it's a vague plan, and she has no means for the plan. So,
But let me play devil's advocate here.
Okay.
There is a very high percentage of people who have attempted and failed that will eventually succeed. Our son, his previous attempts were with a gun. He could not, our son hung himself. So just because she doesn't have the pills doesn't mean that in her mind she could research some other way to take her life where she doesn't have to look for pills. But there is, and I want to say it's in the 90% of people that have attempted suicide before will eventually take their life.
the real question here is, would you continue to try to give her care, or would you refer her to somebody?
I think she should be referred.
I'd refer.
I would refer.
I agree.
Even though it's kind of there's nothing really, there's no bells ringing here, but I'd agree. Okay, number 4, Mr. D just hasn't been feeling himself lately. Trouble sleeping, decisions are hard for him, he can't make up his mind, he's tired, begin to wonder whether life is worth living. So let's look at what factors would point to a lower risk. Did you guys get to talk about this one at all?
A little bit, I think.
He's got a best friend he talks
Yeah,
about.
got a best friend.
No pills available, but this is America. You can get pills.
Yeah.
I think this one borders the one you just talked about.
It's got a plan, but it's somewhat vague, right?
But he's got physical factors that have been increasing. No sleep, he's actually lost weight.
Right. So this is pointing to a higher risk.
Loss of weight means something.
Yeah.
Unless you're on your exercise diet and eating.
Alienated from his family, family history of suicide.
And he's thought about that he should kill himself.
Yeah, he's thinking about it. Right.
And he doesn't think at all highly of himself.
Right.
With low self-esteem.
Maybe you can add some insight to this, but when someone says they've been thinking about suicide. To me, that says a lot. I mean, we all think about, gosh, it'd be great if this was just ended, or I wish I wasn't in this situation, and, But when someone says to you, I've thought about killing myself, to me, that just automatically almost puts
Ding,
them in a
ding,
high.
ding, ding, ding,
Yeah,
ding.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, not necessarily in the high. It would if like the lady had the knife laying beside her. She's got the means. She's said, I'm going to do it. This guy's thinking about it, okay? And wouldn't necessarily, it's certainly not low, but according to this thing here, it's not high either.
I mean, I would certainly bring that up to
Absolutely.
my supervisor and say, hey,
It's a high moderate, high moderate. The slide that we showed earlier. I mean, where you're involved, you're down past the point now where you're involved.
Yeah.
I think I probably was I was doing this wrong, and that I was looking at it, do I want to be responsible for this person's decision, or do I want to get help from the right people? And in every case here, I rated it as high because I felt like I needed help. I'm not sure that's what you wanted us to do.
Well,
So you rated it, as far as you were concerned, as far as you needing help to help him versus
Yes, right.
the individual where he was in his life as far as being, and that's perfectly fine. I mean, that's actually a very sensitive way to approach the subject matter. And there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah, if in doubt, ask.
Better safe than sorry. Better safe than sorry.
Absolutely.
That's what they're.
at one point in our reading here, it said that low and moderate depression can go to severe depression very quickly. So if these conditions persist, then there's a good chance he's going to go into the high category, high risk category.
Right. Yeah, that's kind of where my thoughts were.
And again, I think you'll have a better feel for it. I keep stressing, you're gonna know this person, because I don't think you're gonna get into something like this the first time you meet with them. You could, but hopefully over the course of time, this person will feel comfortable talking to you about those kind of thoughts.
Okay.
And you'll have a better feel for what should be the next step, but always share it with your leader if it's at this point and you have this gut, I can't express enough your gut feeling. Larry will tell you the day that we found out Chris had died, I had a gut feeling all day. All day I knew something had happened to my son. All day long.
And, just our consternation here about what to do, it just points out even more that we need to ask questions. And then the focus note number 2 there, summary of reading on assessing suicide risk, all those life situations that the person has going on, the clues that that he might be suicidal, and then once you know the life situation and he's giving you some clues as to what's going on with his life or that he might be suicidal, then you have to assess the risk, and you ask those questions over and over and over until you're satisfied that one way or the other. It makes it sound really easy, doesn't it? But my point I'm trying to get across is that the more you talk to him or her and ask these questions, the better you're going to be able to make a better decision on what to do. Okay, let's see. Was that the last one? Yeah, that was the last one. Let's move on. Steps to take.
Steps to take if you believe your care receiver may be suicidal. I emphasize the fact that you're likely will never be assigned someone that it is obvious in the beginning that they're suicidal. But as Larry said, a low, moderate suicide can escalate to severe suicide. But they would never knowingly assign you someone that has indicated that they're suicidal. It is important nonetheless that you know what to do if you encounter the rare situation where you suspect that your care receiver is suicidal. If you believe that your care receiver or another person may be suicidal, you need to do your best to help him or her obtain professional help. Someone's suicidal state is not a situation you are qualified to handle by yourself. As a Stephen minister, you need to contact your Stephen leader or pastor as soon as possible to get consultation and help dealing with a potentially suicidal situation. In high-risk situations, you may have to contact the police or other authorities immediately and then contact your Stephen leader or pastor as soon as you can. Some of the steps you will need to take depend on how high the risk of suicide is. Focus Note 8 summarizes the steps to take if you believe a care receiver may be suicidal. Read through Focus Note 8 and then we will talk about each of these. It's on page 332. MHMR has a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week number and will actually send someone out. That number, if you want to write it down, and it may be on some of the handouts we gave you, 1-800-762-0157. I'm going to share with you real quick. I know we want to get through this. Larry and I were called out on a delayed visit. A family had lost their son. He had taken his life on that Sunday, and this was a couple of days later. Larry and I were called by our leader, a mental health professional, to go with him to visit this family. Well, she latched on to me because we both had lost a son, and she was very, very distraught, and this was a stepfather. And she asked me after our visit, she asked me if I would come back on Monday. This was on a Thursday, I believe. She asked me if I would come back on Monday and visit with her again. And I asked our mental health professional if that'd be okay, and he said yes. So on Monday, I went back to see her, and I was by myself. Her husband was there, but he left to run errands. She was still very, very distraught and told me that she wanted to take her life. She wanted to be with her son, that she could not live without her son. I'm not qualified. I was in a little bit of a panic because I could not, I just tried, the best that I knew how to explain to her that I had been where she was, and how devastating it is. And she had a young child that they had adopted. And, I tried to explain to her, but she was unconsolable. crying. And so I asked permission to call our mental health professional at MHMR. And I called and I asked him, I said, I need help. I'm afraid to leave this woman. And so he came, and due to some financial reasons, and she had just started a new job, MHMR can help someone get medication because she wasn't able to go to the doctor and get medication because she didn't have insurance yet. So MHMR can help. I don't know all the details of that. And so he came out. Unfortunately, this didn't turn out very positive. She did not take her life, but the stepfather was very negative and did not support MHMR's involvement in helping his wife. But so I'm just telling you what turned out as a visit, I thought, so that I could let her talk a little bit, immediately went south. And she said, I don't want to live. I don't want to live. If I could walk out in the road right now and let a car hit me, I would be happy. I do not want to live. So, just out of the blue. It can happen out of the blue.
So I think this is the case we were talking about earlier. All her situation is, her life situation is bad. She just lost a son. However, she didn't have any plans, did she? She didn't have a plan on how she would do it?
A car accident.
Well,
she kept talking about a car accident.
So maybe she, if that was the plan, maybe she did have a plan. But this is something that I think would be low to moderate. It's just a very distraught person. But at the same time, you need help with, that you would refer. Okay.
I didn't want to leave her because she said, I don't want to live. All I can think about is being with my son. So, okay, focus note 8. We will just go over that rather quickly because it goes into more detail later on in this.
Why don't you just go to that? You want to just go to the steps?
Well, steps to take if you believe someone may be suicidal. Take suicide statement seriously. Ask, never apologize, never worry about making them mad. Are you considering suicide? Ask about a plan. Convey assurance and hope, but never ever tell them you know how they feel. Assess the level of suicide risk. Act based on your assessment. Okay. Take suicide statements seriously. Whenever anyone mentions or hints at suicide, you need to pay attention immediately and take him or her very seriously. You might think that this would go without saying, but it doesn't. Caregivers have missed statements about suicide, and their care receivers have suffered the consequences. That seems a little harsh to me, but I was a nervous wreck with this woman, and it would have been real easy for me to say, I gotta go, but I couldn't do it. I couldn't leave her. Anybody have anything to add to that?
So as you look across from low to high, as the caregiver in the low, you're going to come up with a little bit some sort of plan to have them seek some sort of counseling and leave it up to their.
If it's a low risk.
Right, if it's low. In moderate, it says do not leave your care receiver until you have that commitment and have established a clear plan for how she's going to obtain the care. And then on the third one, where the risk is high, you're not going to leave, and that's when you are making the intercession for them. You're staying, you're helping, you're calling 911, you're up, but you're getting a professional involved right then. Yeah. You're not leaving it up to them.
You're correct.
Well, and they're under the low risk, I'm not sure you're leaving, I mean, if the person is suicidal, even though it's a low risk, I'm not sure you're just leaving it up to them. According to this,
That's where I guess, one of my questions.
Well, the
the focus
second,
note 8 there doesn't say that.
It says, it says, don't leave or hang up until he or she agrees to talk to you, talk to a pastor, talk to a mental health professional.
but then it says contact your Stephen leader,
Sure,
pastor.
right. I think that's across all the board,
Yeah,
basically.
yeah. Get someone else's opinion there, because I have to tell you, they are not always going to tell you the truth. They can sit there and tell you, oh yes, I will call, I will get
Right,
somebody.
right.
And phew, goes right out one ear and out the other. It doesn't necessarily mean they're going to do that. I mean, this is a hard module, and it instills a little bit of fear in all of you, because again, you don't want to accept that responsibility for that person. But I stress again, you're gonna know, I don't think they're gonna get into this the first time you meet with them, but as you know them, you'll feel more comfortable, but always call your Stephen leader if you have any feelings.
And also, when you're dealing with the human psyche, you can't like do parameters like if this then that all the time, because people are different, situations are different, so they're trying to give you some fence post guidelines, but that doesn't mean that's always going to be right every single time.
And remember, we're talking about suicidal persons here, okay? Whether it's low, moderate, or high. And the whole premise of this thing is that we're not qualified in any case if the person is suicidal.
Stephen, ministers, follow your gut feeling and tell your care receiver that you're going to talk to your Stephen leader about comments that the care receiver is making, at this time. And call the Stephen leader. Don't even wait till the next meeting.
But the main point of that was get a commitment. If it's low, get a commitment. Get them to commit to you, if you're on the telephone, not to take any drastic measures, because you're not able to make an assessment on the telephone. Get a commitment to intervene, see them face to face. You, your Stephen leader, Father George, whoever. If that be the case. If it doesn't strike you as it's moderate or high, get a commitment and get in their face right away. And then once you have that face-to-face exchange, you can be in a better position to make a determination of how to proceed.
Offer to take them. Offer to go with them. They're afraid. They're frightened. And they feel really alone and alienated. So if you can get them to make a commitment to go and see someone, say, let me take you. Let me go with you. Or do you have someone that can go with you? Okay. Ways people might talk about suicide. It is possible that a person might come right out and say, I'm thinking about killing myself. It is also a person that a care receiver might hint at or her suicidal intention. Focus note 9 on page 333 contains a number of statements that could make, how does that go? Contains a number of statements people could make that might be expressions of suicidal intent. Would someone read that out loud, please?
Focus note number 10.
9.
So 9, expressions of possible suicidal intent. I'm going to kill myself. All my problems will be over tomorrow. My family will be better off without me. Life has lost all meaning for me. It's just that I hate to face each day more and more. What does God really think of someone who takes his or her own life? I'm no good to anyone.
My family will be better off without me. That is so true. That's what they think. It's not necessarily the actual situation. Like our son, I have planned my death. I want my family to be happy. ridiculous. Life has lost all meaning. They talk about when a person has made a decision to take their life, they enter what they call a tunnel. And sometimes they experience euphoria. They're happy. Chris's last visit with us, Christmas of 2009, was one of the best visits we'd ever had with him. And we thought, wow, Chris has beat this, we're so stupid. When actually, he had the hole in the ceiling of his house. He got the rope on a visit that he came here from his brother's garage. And he didn't know when, but he had it planned. And he was euphoric. He was happy. He could see an end to his pain. So, all of these things, and we didn't know that. Of course, we didn't know he was planned his death. We didn't know what he wanted to rope for. We thought the euphoria and the happiness was because he had beat this depression. Anybody have any other comments about Focus Note 9?
Well, I find it interesting. What does God really think of someone who takes his or her own life? If someone asks you that, you've got to come up with a very good answer. And I'm wondering if, God loves everyone. I don't think that would help. God loves you, but I don't think that would help. They ask that question.
Well, what they're really wanting to know is, am I going to go to hell, or is he going to?
Yeah.
Is he going to recognize I've got problems? That's what he's really asking there is
What can you say?
Yeah, what can you say about it? God doesn't want you to take your life.
Well, you could certainly tell them that God, because it says in this handout, it's beautiful. God certainly understands their pain and their sorrows and their struggles with life. But does God want them to take their life? I don't think so. God wants you to be able to find a way to work through this. But he understands your sorrows. Yes, Dave?
Stephen Ministers, let me get your attention. And I'm recording, but not you guys. If you don't know what to say, ask questions. That's always your fail-safe. Obviously, you have a sincere reason for asking me that question. May I ask what that reason is? Are you thinking about hurting yourself? Are you planning on committing suicide? That's a misdirection or a smokescreen, not the real issue. So ask questions. If you ever, and I can't express this strongly enough. If you never or ever find yourself in the situation where you don't know what to say, ask questions centered on their feelings.
Put it back on them.
Get them to talk and regurgitate what the heck is going on. Thank you.
Sometimes care receivers make statements like those in Focus Note 9, but their caregivers don't pick up on what they're trying to say. Focus Note 10 lists some reasons why caregivers might miss such clues. Would someone please read Focus Note 10 aloud?
Why caregivers might miss statements of suicidal intent. The caregiver might feel so anxious about suicide that he or she denies, represses, or ignores the care receiver's clues. The caregiver might believe that the care receiver couldn't really mean what he or she just said and may fear offending the person by commenting on or asking about the subject of suicide. Fear of a suicidal situation might immobilize the caregiver and prevent him or her from acting. The caregiver might feel embarrassed about the topic of suicide and therefore ignore it. The caregiver might have suspected suicide in the past but found that the clues were false alarms. That might predispose him or her to assume that the current clues are also a false alarm. The caregiver might not know what constitutes clues about suicide and thus does not recognize them when a care receiver says them.
Discussion? It's not easy to talk about. And I think a lot of people are worried that if you bring the subject up and talk about it, you're going to give them ideas that maybe they didn't have. But that is not the case. I honestly don't believe that anybody decides to take their life overnight. I think it's been brewing in the back of their minds for a long time. None of us know why our loved ones decided on that day to take their life. They go back and they think about every little thing that happened with that person. What happened that day that caused that? Their cup just runneth over that day for whatever reason. You have been trained to recognize signs of possible suicidal intent. Be sure you pay attention, even if it's difficult to do so. If you recognize and pursue a hint about suicide, you may save someone's life. Ask, are you considering suicide? You need to ask assertively whether the care receiver is considering suicide, and do not beat around the bush. Focus note 11 on page 334 contains some examples of how to ask about suicidal intentions. Would someone read that out loud, please?
Are you feeling so bad that you're considering suicide? It sounds as if you desperately want your suffering to end. I'm wondering if this has ever led you to think about killing yourself. Has all that pain you're going through made you think about hurting yourself? Have you reached a point where you felt like just throwing it all away, possibly even ending your own life?
Discussion?
Is there, okay, so you're going to be assertive, and you're going to ask these questions truthfully. Ask the question, is there evidence, or as the care receiver, when you're assertive like this, is there evidence to show that the care receiver is going to answer you honestly and be, do they lie?
Not in our experience.
Well, the answer to your question is, the better you know the person, the longer you talk to them, the more discussion you have going back and forth, the better you're able to assess if the answer is any good or not. And they may be really good at lying to you, but
Not everybody that gets depressed is going to thinking about kill themselves.
Certainly.
They might be going through just a really rough patch, but I've got written down here, may not tell the truth.
So what do, Bob? You ask them, and you talk to them, and then you get a commitment from them that they won't do anything in the interim until you have another opportunity, whether it's the next day, in 2 days, to meet with them again, depending on your gut feeling on the situation. If you have to ask somebody that question, never leave them without some sort of a commitment. Why? That's all you've got. Well, you have no other reassurance. And that may not be enough, but you can only do what you can humanly do. And I feel confident that the Holy Spirit will be with you at that moment and will guide you. So I'm not worried. And I hope that and pray that you guys will trust your instincts, trust your gut, understand that it's not like, it can happen, but it's not likely. But it can. That's why you have the training. But then the Holy Spirit's there for you. Come on, guys. Wow. That's awesome, isn't it? Mm-hmm. So don't trust in yourself. Trust in the Spirit. And you'll be fine. That person will be fine. But always get a commitment from them.
When you ask whether a person is considering suicide, you may get a yes or a no answer. if the answer is yes, then as Dave says, you need to start asking lots of questions. Do they have a plan? Do they have the means? Is this something they've been thinking about for a while? You know, sometimes it's just a knee-jerk reaction. I just want to kill myself. But ask, as Dave said, the more questions you can ask. If the answer's no, then okay. But if there's something that's bothering you about this person, then share it with your Stephen leader. I don't think you would want to pursue it anymore with that person, because that's just going to put them even more on the defensive.
If they say no, and then you know there's always the option that they could be lying, and you're not like convinced, you could say, well, just humor me for a minute. And if you were seriously considering suicide, how would you go about doing it?
Yeah.
Because if they're considering it, you're not putting the idea in their head.
No.
So if they tell you, well, I'd probably hang myself, why would you choose hanging yourself over other methods and get them talking about it? Well, because I got this 30-foot rope in my garage, and I got this huge oak tree, and I just think it would be nice to, and then all of a sudden, whoa, what's going on here, So even if they say no, that doesn't mean you can't still objectively pursue the conversation. You don't just necessarily have to drop it and say, oh, okay. And, well, how was your day? And go on with your Stephen ministry visit. Does that kind of make sense?
And you want to let them know you're concerned about them.
Yeah.
And that, if they do have thoughts of suicide, call me. If you get those thoughts, call me before you decide to do anything. Let's talk about it. Would two of you please read the parts in Focus Note 12? It's sample dialogue to illustrate what can happen when you ask. I need two people.
We can do it. Okay, I'll be the caregiver.
Read loud, please.
Okay, over the last month or so, I've noticed that you've been depressed. I'm wondering if you are thinking about suicide.
Yes, but how did you know?
Thoughts about suicide often go with depression. I'd like to know more about what you've been thinking. Okay, then we go to dialogue 2. I've noticed that you've been giving away some of your favorite possessions lately. Is there any particular reason for this?
No, I just want other people to get some enjoyment out of them, too.
Are you by any chance thinking of suicide?
Heavens no, I've been feeling really upset about moving and just wanted to do what I know has to be done eventually. Have I looked distraught lately?
Kind of. I'm concerned about you. I really want you to take care of yourself.
Discussion on dialogue 1. They ask, have you been thinking about it? And they said yes. So then you start asking questions. Do you have a plan? Do you have the means? In dialogue 2,
I think that I was lying and
after dealing with what we've dealt with and Chris giving his stuff away and giving you another reason for it, I think you, again, just have to have a gut feeling about it. And if this sounds like something, if they're really moving and they're giving away some stuff, then just be alert to that person.
it's a caution there.
Ask about a plan. Use the listening skills you have learned to get your care receiver to talk about his or her situation. Ask open-ended questions to encourage them to say more. Ask your care receiver to tell you all that they have been thinking about suicide. Try to get as much information as you can about the specifics of the plan. If there is a plan, try to learn details such as those in Focus Note 13. Would someone read that aloud, please? Details to learn about a suicidal plan. Go for it, Terry.
When does he or she plan to do this? How does the care receiver plan to kill him or herself? Does he or she already have the means available? Has he or she already taken any steps towards the suicide, such as writing a will or giving away prized possessions? Has he or she rehearsed the suicide?
If they have a plan, they've given a lot of serious thought
And if
to
they're-
taking their life.
If they're rehearsing it, then you know that it's even more serious.
They can have a plan, like our Chris did, have the means, have a plan, but not have a day that they're going to do it. He actually texted his twin brother that morning that we think he took his life to know if there were any plans for their birthday, and didn't even wait to get a reply from Jay. So I don't know, maybe Chris got up that morning and he wasn't planning on taking his life, and then something happened and he did. We don't know. We don't know. So, gut feeling, ask questions until you're comfortable. Convey assurance and hope. If your care receiver says that he or she is considering suicide, say that you want them to live, that you want to help them see hope in this painful situation. If they are at this point, they may feel that there is no hope.
Can you repeat that one more time, please?
I'm sorry?
Can you repeat that one more time as what to say? Or when you,
If your care receiver says that he or she is considering suicide, ask that you want him or her to live. Say that you want them to live, that you want to help them see hope in this painful situation. If they are at this point, they may feel there is no hope.
There's that word hope again.
Also, ask about family. Ask them if they have considered what they're leaving behind. I can tell you this, when a person has decided to take their life, it's not through selfishness, because at that moment and that decision, they are not thinking about their family, not out of selfishness, out of trying to end the pain and the darkness that they feel. We have a lady that comes to our group who lost her sister back in the fall. When many years ago, this lady that comes to our group tried to take her life. And she had young children, and she said, I can tell you now that looking back on that, I'm horrified that I had made that decision to take my life. I never ever thought about my children and what I was going to do to my family. All I could think about was ending the pain. And it is pain, ending the pain. So we had a lady that came to our group who was declared legally blind. She was a severe diabetic. She asked to come to our group because she thought that she could give us an insight into a person who has made a decision to take their life. She had made a decision to take her life. She had it all laid out. She had the means, she had the plan, she had everything, instructions written down. But before she did it, she wanted to come to our group to share with us, survivors, what a person that is at that state, what condition they're in. Well, she didn't, the whole group, it was a rather large group that night. Everybody else talked. I had no idea that was why she was there. So we asked if she had anything to share. Well, she started talking. Well, you can imagine the reaction of the survivors in this group. They were so angry that this woman had the audacity to come to our group and tell us that she was planning her death. But she had it completely. She was tired of her blindness. She was tired of her diabetes. She had a horrible relationship with her children. She was divorced. She felt hopeless. She didn't see any light in her future at all. She left that meeting, and I was tasked to pick her up because she lived in Denton, and this was the group in Flower Mound. It just so happened it was a meeting he missed. She and I were talking on the way home. She had changed her mind. She said, I had never thought of what I was going to do to my children. I already have a very tumultuous relationship with them. But I never thought that I would leave them in such despair after seeing your group. She said, I can't believe it, but I no longer want to take my life because of my family. I cannot do this to my children. So, there's another, if they're in 10 and they have a plan, ask them about those that they're leaving behind. Their pain ends, but ours begin.
Carol, you're very humble because what you just told us was your group was her last ditch effort to cry out for help. And had your group not existed, there's a good chance that lady, would not have, may not still be around.
But she was looking for an excuse not to take her.
Absolutely. She was crying out for help, and it's because of y'all's group. So I can, you're very humble people, I can tell. Because you didn't point that out, but I wanted to point that out. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. We do. We, as Larry said in the beginning, this is difficult for us. It's difficult for us to go with the lost team. But we've had people tell us that the group has given them hope. It gives them hope. But anyway, okay, assess the level of suicide risk. We've already talked about that, and refer back to, again, Focus Note 8. That is a very good description of the levels and what you should do.
Focus Note 13.
And Focus Note 13. 8 and 13 are good for you to refer back to. And don't ever apologize. Act based on your assessment. If you believe a person is suicidal, you need to help them get the help they need. When and how you do that, however, depends on the level of risk, and we've talked about that a lot. Once you just determine the level of risk, mild, watch them, ask questions. Moderate, be a little bit more concerned, and there is where you're between moderate and high. Call your Stephen leader, go with your gut feeling. Always err in the way of, I'm worried about you and we need to help here.
I have a question. I always hate to interrupt, but so let's say you're in a moderate to high, and would it be appropriate for the city minister to call Denton County and tomorrow?
I wouldn't make any phone calls without their permission.
Okay. And then let's say you get their permission, then you make that phone call and talk in their presence?
You could call and talk to someone there and tell them the situation, that you're a Stephen minister
Right.
and you have someone that you're very concerned about. Get their recommendation on what to do. Our son was seeing a psychiatrist and a psychologist. He had lost faith in both of them. When Chris was here at Thanksgiving, we were sitting at in our breakfast nook, and we asked him if he was thinking about suicide again, and he said yes. And we said, let us help you. I had already been looking at some places. Chris was not working at the time. We offered everything in the world to get him to go, because he even told me at one point that he thought he needed in-residence help to beat his depression. We offered to help him financially. We offered Larry would go down and close up his house in San Antonio and make sure everything was secure. He had 2 dogs that he worshiped. We said, we'll take care of the dogs. Don't worry about your dogs. We will do everything we can to help you. And he would not go. He would not go. So
We're actually, speaking for myself, very ignorant at the time about the whole process, depression to suicide thing. We did not believe at that moment that he was going to leave there and a month later take his life. If we had, we wouldn't have let him leave. We'd tied him up or done something. But so what we should have done is maybe call MHMR right there and just have somebody come over and talk with us, a health professional. But he's of age, and you can't do anything unless they want you to. So.
That's a really tough thing. The fact that he was talking to a psychiatrist and a psychologist, though, there was no, do they not refer also, or?
I don't think Chris was ever truthful with them.
Okay.
To be honest with you, I think Chris was really embarrassed about his mental health. Because when he called me, when he had attempted the year before, and he said, I really think I need in-residence help. And I said, why don't you go do that, Chris? You've got vacation time. He said, oh, Mom, I couldn't do that. I couldn't do that. I can't do that with my job. He was so embarrassed by how severe his depression was that he didn't want to be embarrassed and ask for time off to go in a facility for a couple of weeks or however long was needed.
But what would a therapist or psychiatrist do if they had somebody in their office that they thought was suicidal and they didn't want to leave them out of the room? Probably the same thing that we would recommend is, call somebody. Don't let the guy out of your
Call the police.
Yeah,
that's what I would
call. 911. MHMR is great, but 911 is also a source. And can psychiatrists say no? I'm assigning you right now to this place. I don't know if they can do that.
Sure, they can commit.
They can do that.
Sure.
Yeah, when they're a harm to themselves,
Yeah.
when they would see that there's a harm to themselves, that they would actually act on that.
Yeah.
I'll be very honest with you, I don't think Chris realized how bad his was. He was so used to feeling bad that I just don't think he really ever thought it through. I don't, because I know that Chris would never have done it had he been thinking straight for the pain that it's caused the family, especially his twin brother?
That's the whole point, is that they're not thinking straight.
Right.
They're not rational. No rational person wants to take his own life.
No.
No rational person wants to hurt people that love him and that he loves. So there's a whole another discussion there about that to be had.
And his brother, to this day, he hates those week in January. And he doesn't even want to celebrate. He said, I feel guilty celebrating my birthday because Chris isn't here.
We have the day that we think that he took his life, and then there's the day that he was found, which was 2 days later. And then 2 days later is
Their birthday.
So the beginning of that week is not a lot of fun for him or for any of us for that matter, but we find ways to get through it. But anyway, I think we should move on.
Yes, I agree. Okay, just brief summary, if the immediate risk is low, if you believe the person may be thinking about suicide, but you are as sure as you can be that they have no plan to kill themselves, consult with your Stephen leader before you help your care receiver get the help they need. So, low risk, call your Stephen leader, tell them the situation, go from there. Call someone first. Suppose your care receiver tells you that they had some thoughts about suicide, but they don't have any plans to attempt suicide. They're just thinking about it. One way to take the care receiver seriously is to ask him or her to agree not to do anything without first talking to someone, such as you, your pastor, suicide hotline, or a mental health professional. Would two of you please read Focus Note 14 aloud?
Any day now.
We've been talking about some suicidal thoughts you've been having, and I would like to ask you to agree to something.
What's that?
That if you start thinking about taking any steps toward killing yourself, you will promise to call me. Or you could call Pastor Fred, the suicide hotline, or some mental health professional. I just want you to agree to call somebody so you can talk about it before you do anything.
I've told you that I don't have any plans to kill myself right now.
Yes, that's good. I just want to make sure that you will call someone if that changes.
Okay, I promise to call someone if that changes.
And it says if you have the telephone number for the local suicide hotline, have it with you.
Is that the MR number?
Yes.
Yeah. And of course,
I think they have the national hotline on there as well.
Yeah, and I gave you the MHMR number, 24/7. And always consult with your Stephen leader. Check back with them a day or two. Make sure they're okay. Check in frequently with them and make sure that they have followed through with their promise to get some help. My red flag was that Friday, I tried to call Chris. I had put a birthday card in the mail, and he always called me and said, Mom, I got the card. Well, I didn't hear from him, so I called him. I started calling him that morning. And it wasn't unusual for Chris not to answer my call, especially if he was having one of his bad days. So I kept trying to reach him all day, and I never heard back. Well, that's when my gut feeling kicked in, and I knew something was wrong, because I even called once and threatened to call his best friend and have him go over and check on him, and that always made Chris mad, and then he'd call me back and say, Mom, don't call my friends. Well, I couldn't reach him. So if you call your care receiver and they're not answering, should be a little red flag for you that there could be something going on. Did you want to say something?
No, I'm just wondering, what would you do then if you called and you're
Call
a caregiver?
Well, if you seriously think that there is something wrong, you can call the police and ask them to go to the house. That's what Jay kept telling me. I kept bugging my other two boys all that Friday. I can't get a hold of Chris. Oh, Mom, see, here's where it goes in, where you alienate your family. Oh, Mom, that's just Chris being Chris. He's probably mad at you about something. That's just Chris. Well, moms know that wasn't Chris being Chris. If the immediate risk is moderate, if you believe that they plan to attempt suicide, but you're as sure as you can be that they're not going to do it right away, you need to help your care receiver get professional help as soon as possible. Obtain a commitment to get professional help. We've talked about that. What kind of professional help should you push for? Sometimes a psychiatrist is an excellent choice because as a medical doctor, psychiatrists can diagnose and treat physical problems that may be contributing to the care receiver's despair as well as mental and emotional problems. In some cases, they'll be more comfortable going to their own physician. It's hard to find a psychiatrist who really, really understands depression. I know that sounds far out there, but a lot of times, we hear this a lot in our group, they have lost all confidence in psychiatrists and psychologists. And that's what had happened to Chris. And we've talked about where to start with professional help. Medical doctor, they could have an underlying medical problem that is causing them to be depressed and to feel bad. So a good physical might be a quick answer to starting to find out what the problem is. Medicines do exist. A lot of the people that we come to our group that have lost their loved ones were bipolar. And we're hearing that more and more. So getting to a good medical doctor, having a physical, trying to find out what is going on. As Dave pointed out while we were talking during the break, depression is not something that is going to go away when it's severe depression. You need help to get over that so that it doesn't lead to suicide.
So I have a 19-year-old daughter, and she's dealing with some issues. So I concur, just say that as I try to put together a plan and help her and try to find a psychiatrist or a psychologist or a counselor, for me, it's a minefield.
It is.
It is
a minefield.
It's just, you don't know who to talk to,
who to trust.
People don't call you back. You leave messages with these people. They may, or whatever.
Is it even going to connect with your daughter? That's it.
Yes. Oh, yes. But just the initial to try to determine what your needs are, and who's qualified, who's not, or who's overqualified.
It's very difficult.
Yeah.
Yes, Dave.
Well, the area that she's talking about right now, though, is other physical ailments such as migraines or being bipolar or
schizophrenia.
Yeah, schizophrenia or alcoholism or insomnia, if I didn't mention that already. These things can lead to or contribute to depression. Sometimes the depression is a result of the physical ailment of migraines that's keeping them from having a social life, keeping them from sleeping, or insomnia where they're always tired, and it just compounds, it magnifies everything. And so I think one of the things that Carol's pointing out is if you can get them to a doctor where they can give them something that helps the migraines, give them something that helps the insomnia, you'll find that it may lessen the effects of depression, or it may have been the reason why they were depressed. Because there's an imbalance there in their physical well-being when you don't sleep. Spontaneous crying, stuff like that.
But there can be a lot of reasons for depression. Chemical imbalance, sleep deprivation, alcohol, drugs. These are all things that can contribute and can make that mild depression escalate to severe depression. Alcohol is involved a lot in suicide. Alcohol and drugs. A lot.
And prescription drugs,
Yes, yes.
barbiturates, your oxycodone and hydrocodone.
But
Not that I know.
once you have made a decision that you want to refer this person to somebody, or you want to encourage them to seek consultation, then you have to take in a lot of factors. You talk to your Stephen leader, you talk to that person, you find out what's available. You can call MHMR. Like I say, if it's a financial problem, they can give you some advice on where to go from there. And we have in the bulletin, there is a counselor that is listed under the staff and organizations here at St. Mark who treats people at a sliding scale. Also, Tom LaRussa, I don't know if you know Tom, he is a licensed counselor, and I would trust Tom just totally. He is a wonderful guy and has a lot of experience. So those are just things to do if you feel that person needs help. Go along with them. Again, I recommend if you can talk them into going to the doctor, offer to go with them so they don't go alone. They're embarrassed. If the risk is high, you can take them. If you, like me that day, I wasn't going to leave that lady. But you can actually, if you can get them in your car and take them to the emergency room, go in and tell them that you have a person who is talking about ending their life. They have to take that person. So that would be the absolute worst case scenario, that you just did not have any other resources and you could not. But again, be in constant contact with your Stephen leader. Have a backup. Don't leave them. I know that's difficult, but don't leave them. And you can, like I say, you can call 911, tell them that you're with someone that is threatening suicide, and they will come and help you get this person to a safe place. I think that's it. Skill practice, helping suicidal persons get the help they need.
Okay, here's kind of where we are, folks. It's noon, and we have a whole other session to do. So I'm going to leave it to the boss and you guys as to how much you want to do, if any.
Is the whole nother session the role playing?
Yes.
We'll do one role play with the guys, front and center, on camera, no break. We'll jump right into it and have it be the absolute worst situation possible.
Okay, let's see if we can find one.
And Bob?
Yes.
Pick one. CG or CR? It's up to you.
Skill practice.
Care receiver or caregiver?
Care receiver.
I knew you'd do that.
What a hunt that was.
I think the one about the woman,
Which one, the lady?
yeah.
Bob, I need you to raise your voice.
Do we have any?
Skill practice 2?
Yeah.
This is skill practice 2.
Look at skill practice.
Focus note
2.
21. Focus note 21.
And you guys can make it gender appropriate somehow, some way, I'm sure, unless it's like postpartum.
Focus note 21.
I thought that was funny.
Yeah.
People at home are laughing.
You want to be, would you rather be
I don't
received?
care. You choose.
Single choice, but I just.
Receive.
Oh, now look at you guys. Now it's a woman. It's like,
No.
come on, let's go. Let's get it going.
Pick another one, or?
No.
Now, they can
Okay.
they can make it masculine. You guys go sit up front.
Okay, the ladies are going to be observers, so you need to read focus note 20 and 21. No, both, you read both of them. And Stephen Minister, you do 20, and the care receiver is 21.
Okay.
There you go.
Stephen Minister, read focus note 20, is that what you said?
Stephen Minister is focus note 20, correct?
All right.
And review focus note number 8, that gives you some ideas.
We're going to pause for station identification.
No commercials, please.
Soupy sales, anybody?
There's a really good mining in the receiver.
There'll be no laughing.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing very well, Bob. It's good to see you.
It's good to be with you too.
You look a little uncomfortable today. Been working too hard?
I think I'm at my wit's end. Some things have been happening at work. My boss just told me that he's gonna add some hours to my schedule. You know, I have 3 kids that I'm taking care of by myself. And he's telling me that I gotta work more and that I've gotta stop taking time off to help them in their emergency needs and everything like that. And I'm at my wit's end. I don't know what I'm gonna do about that.
Well, have you tried praying about that lately?
Prayer is like the least of my concern. I mean, I don't know if I had told you this, but you know, my oldest has been suspended from school because of pot. And so he needs attention. I call my parents up. They're not willing to help out and, you know, take help in any way. I mean, I can't sleep at night anymore. I'm exhausted all the time. I don't know, sometimes I think that I have been thinking about maybe it'd be better if you know, I'm good with God, you know? Maybe it would be better if I just went to see him.
Have you seen your doctor and got a good physical? Maybe that could.
No, I haven't talked
very
to.
tired.
I haven't talked to a doctor. But you know, if I could end it all, maybe do it in a way that, you know, I think about it and you know how that, I know it's going to be hurtful for my children. Maybe I could, you know, seriously, maybe I could do it in a way that looked like an accident, maybe jump in my car and have a car accident. And then they wouldn't know that I did it.
How often do you seriously think about this?
Often? I don't know how often, but I put a little plan in my head.
Something new though, is it not?
Well, yes, but you know, the stress is just, man, it's like all consuming. It doesn't stop. That's how I think about it.
Well, what's your thoughts about bringing in a professional that can deal with this subject and visit with you, and I'd be happy to be there for you if that would help.
Well,
That's stuff
I'm
you
kind of
talk
old
about.
school, you know, I'm
Yeah.
not gonna, you know, I'd be embarrassed about it all, that's for sure, but, you know, maybe if you were to come with me,
I'd be happy to do that.
you know, kind of help me find someone or kind of push me along.
Yeah. Well, I can find a resource for you. I mean, I'll be happy to do that part of it too. But, you know, you've got to agree to this and really share all your thoughts with professional people that we bring in. I think that would be a good next step.
Okay, I'll think about that.
Okay.
Okay,
I got a question.
observers?
I got a question. Well,
We'll leave it to the observers.
Yeah.
You guys can return to your seats. That's a good job, by the way.
Even in role playing, that's very tough.
It's tough.
We'll talk about
That
that.
is, it was
Talk
very
about that kind of stuff.
uncomfortable.
Indeed it is.
Okay, ladies, what do you got?
Well, I think Bob was brought around thinking about it himself and coming up with something. I had the impulses to jump in and say something, but I think it was better the way Ed handled it. It was just kind of like a word or two and then Bob just say it.
You're saying that, from what you observed, were there any questions that maybe could have been asked that weren't asked?
Yeah, but I don't know what. I just,
Okay.
at the time I thought, well, let's say this.
Okay, anybody else?
I thought maybe, that I would have, I was thinking about being in Ed's place and just going with that word, are you suicidal? And seriously, like that's would be tough for me to, and I thought, Ed, you handled it just really well with like, something about how long is this, something about the plan or the thought or whatever, but that's a very, tough thing to put on the plate, I think, the word suicide.
I think that's,
Guys, this is training, first of all, so we're not gonna be spot on. You're not supposed to be. If you are, then I guess you don't need the training, but we're here getting the training. And it's not, you're not cutting somebody off at the knees if you point something out. If you saw something, if you observed something, you're not gonna hurt anybody's feelings because we're here to learn. And it's better to hear it in a training environment than hear it or see it in a newspaper or on the news station. That, oh, I could have asked a question. So was there anything that maybe Julie?
Well, he was saying he was thinking of a way to doing himself in that looked like an accident. So, I don't know that you really needed to say, are you suicidal? That said that he was.
Yeah, I kind of ran into that too.
And I think Ed did a good job, though, getting him, even though Bob's old school, getting Bob to agree to seeing someone if Ed would go with him. So.
Okay.
It's tough to do, even,
Yeah.
it's almost feel like I'm not in training.
No problem. Like I told you guys in our last session, my first caring visit, I had to ask the question.
no, you didn't tell us that.
I did tell you that.
I think, one thing.
Maybe not there that time.
I think one thing that could have been asked is, as we talked about, have you really thought about, your children have already lost their mother. Have you thought about what this will do to your children if you take their life? Your daughter is smoking pot. It's a possibility that is a reaction from her mother's death, her feeling like her mom left. Can you imagine the impact that this is going to have on your daughter's life if you choose to take your life?
As a Stephen minister, the first thing you need to do is assess low, moderate,
Right.
or severe, or high, however you want to look at it. Where are we in that equation with this scenario? Low, moderate, or severe?
I need to say low to moderate.
Really?
I said moderate to severe because he's planning to
Okay,
retire.
it's low, moderate, or severe. We're not going to be straddling the fence.
Severe.
And no fence straddling here, because it could be,
Okay, I'll go severe.
even if it's the wrong decision, I'd
Yeah.
rather it be wrong towards the more severe end than wrong towards the less severe end and have it be.
Since he's planning to crash. it's-
In making your decision about what level it is, what are some things you need to know? That's what I think, I may have missed it, but I don't know if I heard.
It wasn't, it was there, but it's so vague that it could have been like reiterated or
A plan.
reinforced.
There was a plan,
Yeah.
and there was a means.
Was that in there?
That's what I
didn't
get
hear
in my
that.
car.
It was there, but it wasn't detailed, so it could have been like, well, tell me more about your plan, is what I get them to talk about it. To reassure yourself, this sucker really does have a plan.
I felt like I didn't know how serious the problem really was.
And which goes to the point, you can never go wrong asking more questions to clarify. There should be no, well, maybe low, maybe, yeah, I know we're training, but I'm saying in that situation, no, if you're guessing, ask more questions.
But that's like Jay said, that's the reason we're doing this part of it, I mean, what you guys did, you put you on the spot, making you get things, and then saying, okay, here's what we learned.
But you did a good job
Yes.
in offering to go with him and telling him you could find the resources for him. That is very encouraging.
And-
At that point, they don't even know where to begin to try to get some help.
And I liked your reaction. You weren't overboard, you weren't underboard. You expressed concern and confidence.
Non-judgmental.
And then go, oh my God, Chicken Little, which was really cool. You could have suggested, I'll tell you what, why don't we just talk to somebody right now. If you don't feel qualified to make the assessment, put them on the phone with somebody who is more qualified.
Well, let me also just share something with you real quick. It said he's been thinking about a way to commit suicide that would look like an accident.
Yeah.
We have a couple that come to our group who lost their son. He made it look like he was cleaning his gun. So when the police, he was 19 years old, so when the police were called, it was ruled an accidental death. They went on this premise that it was an accidental death. He had all of his gun cleaning stuff and everything. They planned the funeral. I believe they had the funeral. And then they get the death certificate. The medical examiner ruled it a suicide. She almost had a stroke when she got the death certificate. So even though they might think that they're going to make it look like an accident, that's not always the case. Again, I go back with, because when they're thinking suicide, they're not thinking of anything except their pain and how to get rid of it. I think the more you can talk about the family and the effects that it will have on the family, get them to thinking about that. Because that's important, because they're not, and it's not their fault, it's not intentional. But this family, their son thought he was saving them the grief, but it just intensified their grief.
Okay, unless you have any other discussion or questions, look at this one, and if you do have thoughts and feelings, what are they? Did you have any situations you had trouble with? And what do you think you need to work on or become more familiar with?
I think to keep it as a real possibility with some people. Well, like in this case, they trouble with some marijuana, some problem with his daughter hanging with the wrong people, and then parents saying, "No, we're not helping you with that."
Yeah.
That all piles up.
Oh, yeah. Just to let you know, in the first 2 months of this year in Denton County, there were 20 suicides.
Wow.
So it's prevalent. And now we've gone through March and almost all of April, so there's been probably 8 or 9 more at least. So we're on track to have, suicides in the 70 to 80 range.
In Denton County.
In Denton County.
Just in Denton County.
I mean, you hear about it. I guess we're more in tune when we hear about it and read about it all the time. Okay. So let me, okay, your caregiver's compass review,
Do that on your own.
do that. And just real quick, some things to think about. I showed this slide last year. I was using 2013 statistics. The part that I have marked out in white there, and re-entered in white, that's 2015, that's the latest statistics on suicide. So you can see that suicide is now down to almost 12, or 12 minutes, every 12 minutes, instead of every almost 14 minutes, somebody commits suicide. So it's getting more frequent. And 121 Americans take their life every day. It's up from 105. So, and you can see the rest of it there. Suicide, third leading cause of death among 10 to 24-year-olds. 10 to 14 years of age, the rate has doubled in the last 2 decades. 10th leading cause of death in the United States, homicide is 15. Last year, the number of deaths not last year, in 2013, like 38,000, and now it's 193. So we're talking about how, this is not something that's rare. It happens way too often.
More women attempt suicide but don't complete it. More men complete suicide.
Women
Don't succeed,
attempt 4 times more than men do.
but they don't succeed.
Do women usually use pills?
I'm sorry?
Do more?
Yes.
They use less lethal methods.
Yeah. Most suicides are by gunshot.
Okay. Remember, folks, we're not therapists. We don't try to be. We're not trained professionals. Our main goal from this session is to know the ways, assess the risk, that there is a risk, and then know the ways to get that person some help. Okay? And then you do that by assessing the risk of suicide and knowing the steps to take, and then taking action. Okay? Assess the level, know the steps, and then act. So let's close with a prayer, if we will. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Heavenly Father, you care for us in our darkest times. You brighten our darkness with the gift of Jesus, and you walk alongside us in our pain, working through the care of our sisters and brothers in Christ. Grant us the gift of hope, so that we will always know that you are with us, caring for us, loving us, no matter how dark our world looks. Shine so brightly in us that you shine through us, and then use us to bring your light of hope into other people's dark places. We pray in Jesus' name, amen. Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. We're even praying to Jesus for hope, that there remain hope.
We thank Dave for inviting us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And we apologize for going over.